Well, greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to the best damn movie-related show on the planet Earth, the John Campea Show, coming from right here on my YouTube channel. I'm, of course, your host, John Campea, and it's an awesome honor and privilege, as it is every day, to have you, my international friends, joining me as we gather together to talk about our favorite things in the world, movies and movie news and all sorts of good stuff. And guys, it's Friday, which means normally I fly solo on Fridays, but not today, because there's so much good stuff to talk about. We just had to have the one and the only, the master of fun and wonder?
You said it.
The master of fun and wonder, Mr. Robert Meyer Burnett. Robert, how you doing, sir?
John, I just keep wielding fun and wonder wherever I go. I mean, I'm anointing people with fun and wonder. It's an amazing feeling.
It's just a great mantle that you wear. It's a mantle that you wear, sir. And anyway, guys, it's Friday. Congratulations on making it through to the end of another week. You guys made it. I hope you guys have a fabulous weekend planned in store for yourselves ahead of you. And we've got a whole bunch of stuff that we're going to talk about here today. As we get started, though, a couple things for you guys to do. Number one, if you haven't subscribed to the YouTube channel yet, go ahead, take a second right now, go on over and click the subscribe button, become a subscriber to the John Campea Show YouTube channel. Also, make sure you give this video a thumbs up if you like these types of discussions, whether you agree or disagree with our opinions. If you like these types of topics, these types of discussions, click the thumbs up button and make sure you guys leave a comment in the comment section. And by the way, if you want to make sure your comment or question gets read on the show, go ahead and use the super chat feature. It's a great way to make sure your comment gets read on a video, and it's a great way to support the channel as well. And we thank all of you guys who participate in that. All right, we've got a few main topics we're going to talk about here today, but before we do, we got a few things to talk about off the top. And the first thing I want to talk about here is this. Last night, I went out to watch not the highest anticipated movie I had of the year, but was up there. One of the more highly anticipated movies I had this year, and that was It Chapter 2. I went to go see it last night. I had been stoked for it. I passed on going to the press screenings for it. I wanted to go see it last night. Ann and I went to go see it. Now, in case you didn't know, I love the first film. I loved it. It was one of the biggest surprise movies to me. I was expecting something decent. I was ridiculously entertained by the first movie, completely entertained by it. I've liked the trailers for this one. I think the casting for this one has been great and sharp and on point. And I went to go see it, and I'm just sad to say I didn't like it. I didn't like it. I didn't hate it. I don't think it's terrible or anything like that. So it's not terrible, not a dumpster fire, not the most horrible thing I've seen this year, not going to be in the top 10 worst films, nothing like that. But it was a letdown. I'll be honest with you. Number one, I got to say, this movie was way too long for its own good. You know, there are some movies that are, 3 hours long, and that's the perfect length for it. There are some movies that are 2.5 hours long, and you're like, that could have been a little bit longer. This is a movie that got close to 3 hours long, and it was a good 40 minutes too long. It just, everything about this movie felt completely overdrawn, overstretched out, a lot of scenes that just weren't necessary. I didn't find the levity, like the charm of the first one was gone. It was just gone. That's not to say there weren't a couple of very charming scenes. There are a couple of very charming scenes, but the charm of it was gone, was not scary in the least. Like the first one, I got some good thrills in the first one. I got some good, whoa, like jump moments and like, oh, that's creepy, and some good thrills. I got none of that in the second one. I felt like there was a lot of scenes that were just like, what was the point of that? Like they do a traditional horror movie trope, like, oh, a big zombie looking gross thing's going to pop out here. It's like, but how did that make any sense? And a lot of it didn't make any sense. The ending was very eye-rolling to me. The way they conclude the film, not the very, very ending where they wrap up the individual characters' stories, but rather like the big climax of the movie. I was like, really? That's how this ends? And then, there's a lot of people say, well, John, in the book this and in the book that. Yeah, but the job of a movie is to adapt it for the screen and to do it well. There are a number of key adaptations they did in the first one that I think they did really, really well. And I think that could have come into play here too. Look, you guys know this is a movie I was looking forward to. I wanted to like this. I loved the first one. But I just got to say, I walked out and Ann and I both just kind of looked at each other and it's like, well, that was a waste of time. And I feel bad. Again, some highlights though. Bill Hader is great in it. I heard a lot of people saying Hader was good in this movie, and he really, really is. He really is. Sharp character. There were a few moments that I liked when they cut back to the kids, but they did it too much They just did it too much. The back and forth of the kids got to be tiring, to be honest with you. Even though I love the kids who played in the roles, it just got to be a little bit tiring. And just as the movie progressed, more and more logic holes started probably like, wait a minute, that doesn't make any sense, because if that was this, then that would be that. I don't want to give any spoilers away per se. And just by the end of it, I was just like, yeah, missed opportunity. I really do. I feel like it was a missed opportunity. Again, it's not to the point that I would tell anybody, Rob, don't go see it.
Right.
You know, because I know you got your tickets for tonight or tomorrow night.
Tomorrow night at the Dome.
Yeah, I'm not gonna. It's not like I feel like I need to run out and tell people, get rid of your tickets, don't go see. No, it's not that bad. There's some redeeming moments in it. There's some redeeming qualities about it. Not a dumpster fire, not terrible. I just found it to be, you know what it feels like to me? It feels like The Amazing Spider-Man 2. Where
Yeesh.
where I really like the first one. You know, I love the first.
Me too.
I really like the first Amazing Spider-Man. And I don't think the second part, whether we're talking about The Amazing Spider-Man 2 or It Chapter 2, is a complete train wreck or as bad as maybe some people make it up. I don't think it's total rubbish, but it's such a step down. Or another good example would be Thor: The Dark World. Not the worst movie ever made, but a massive step down for me. And, you know, I'm reading some people saying they went to go see it and really enjoyed it, and that's awesome. That's terrific. I don't want to poo-poo on anybody else's experience. But mine was kind of disappointing. And that's the word for me, Rob, coming out of it is disappointing. So I don't know. I hope that doesn't take any wind out of your sails, Rob, because I know you've been looking forward to seeing this.
To be honest, I didn't love the first It, and I'm a huge dyed-in-the-wool Stephen King fan. I've been reading Stephen King since I was in elementary school. I've read most of his novels. He has a new novel out, The Institute. But I was never the biggest fan of It, the book. And the first movie I thought was good, but I didn't love it. And this seems to me, I shouldn't even speak about it because I haven't seen it yet. But I do want to see it. I mean, there's always something of value, I think, to be found in almost any movie. I've always felt that way. And I'm sure there's a lot in this to watch. It's almost 3 hours, so I can't wait to experience it and see. I'm taking Elizabeth's daughter, who's 16, and she loved the first one, so it'll be fun to go with her.
Well, I hope you guys enjoy it more than I did. The question, and I hope you guys who went to go see it enjoy it more than I. And the question is, did you guys have a chance to see it? If so, jump down in the comments section below and let me know what you thought about It Chapter 2. All right. Next thing for us to talk about here off the top is this. Now, we've been talking for a number of weeks now. It's been a huge issue in the world of movie news for the last little while. Understandably so, of course, is the big split between Sony and Marvel as far as Spider-Man. Spider-Man, Disney has put up the, occupied sign and kind of shooed Spider-Man away. He's gone. He's out. And now Sony's going to move forward with their own things. Now, I've been saying this whole time, hey guys, listen, as long as there's time, there's hope. As long as there's time, there's hope. Well, there's no more hope. It's even though, you know what? And to be fair, Kevin Feige has been telling us it's done. The people at Sony have been telling us it's done. But these eternally optimistic people like myself have been saying, as long as there's time, all four, as long as there's time, there's hope. As long as there's time, there's hope. To be fair, they have been kind of telling us, guys, it's amazing that we were able to have this ride at all in the first place, but the ride has come to an end, and now we're going back to the way things were. And now they put another explanation point on it. Speaking at an event, the Sony Pictures CEO Tony Vinciquerra said the following. For the moment, that means what it is. The door is closed. Talking about whether, if there's any chance of Spider-Man and Disney can reignite their talks and get things back together. For the moment, the door is closed, he said. We had a great run with Kevin Feige on the Spider-Man movies. We tried to see if there's a way to work it out. The Marvel people are terrific people. We have great respect for them. But on the other hand, we have some pretty terrific people of our own. Kevin didn't do all the work. Spider-Man was fine before the event movies, did better with the event movies, and now that we have our own universe, he will play off the other characters as well. I think we're pretty capable of doing what we have to do here. And those are the comments from Tony Vinciquerra. Now, listen, I've never been adverse to saying what people don't want to hear. right? Because I mean, it's not my job. You guys wouldn't have any reason to watch me if all I did was say things that people want to hear. And I'm going to say what people don't want to hear right now. He's right. I mean, I know that's not what people want to hear. People want to hear that, no, there's nothing good can happen without Spider-Man in the MCU, and, oh, this is a calamity and nothing. I know it's not what people want to hear. But everything Tony just said is absolutely right. And by the way, I should say this too. I have been impressed. Everything else is a different issue. But on this issue, I have been impressed with the way Sony has really taken the high road in all the public communications. They have never, in any of their public statements, they have never said anything but glowing, amazing things about Disney, about Marvel, and about Kevin Feige specifically. They have never tried to throw Disney under the bus. They've always been, hey, these guys are awesome. You know, you'd think in a breakup they'd be pointing fingers and throwing each other under the bus. And Disney's been pretty good in this situation too. They haven't been bad at this either. But Sony's been, every chance they get, they heap praise on Kevin Feige and Marvel. And maybe behind the scenes that's not really true. Maybe behind the scenes it's a little bit disingenuous. But at least publicly they're coming out saying, you know what? Those guys are awesome. And we have loved working with them and it's been great. And I like the fact that he said that, you know, hey, our Spider-Man films did well before our thing with Marvel, with the event films. And then he says, they did even better with the event films. So he's not sticking his head in the sand. I got to tell you, as far as putting together a very well-crafted public statement for this, I think Tony's done a pretty damn good job. I think this is a great statement. And while it may not be what people want to hear, and I'll be honest, a little bit, it's not what I wanted to hear. But everything he said is true. He's right. Spider-Man was doing fine. I mean, yeah, The Amazing Spider-Man 2 is a big step down, but every single live-action Spider-Man film Sony's ever done has made over $700 million. Before that, the first Amazing Spider-Man film, high critic ratings in the high 70s, high audience ratings, I think like an A cinema score, 77% audience rating on it. Yeah, Spider-Man 1 and 2 are fantastic. Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, I think, is the best Spider-Man movie ever made, blah, 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 and all that kind of stuff. One thing I do want to point out a little bit here on the side, though, is this. Some of you guys have been writing to me this morning after reading this story for yourselves saying, well, wait a minute, time out. We heard stories this week that Sony and Disney were going to sit down again this week and talk about this. And what I've been telling you guys this whole time is, guys, when you read stories, find out where the story comes from. I don't mean what website did you read the story about. In that website, who do they say they got the story that came from? And once again, it's a story that came from We Got This Covered. Guys, I've been telling you, I think actually We Got This Covered is a really good, fun site. They've got some great editorials, a lot of fun content on the site. I think they're a good site. I really do. But I have been saying now for a few weeks, guys, never send me a story when the originating source is We Got This Covered or Cosmic Book News. This is literally like the fifth or sixth one in the last 3 weeks that a story has been out there and it came from them and it turned out it wasn't true at all. So please never send me anything. Never send me an email saying, John, did you hear about this story? Because I'm going to just write back and say, where did you hear it from? Oh, it comes from We Got This Covered. Well, then let's not talk about that. So this is just the latest incident and whatever. Again, I don't want to sound like I'm crapping on the site because I actually think they're a really good, entertaining site that y'all should read and check out. I just don't take any of the stories that come from there. Anyway, that being said, Rob, this is an ongoing drama going on. People still want to hold out hope. People like me still want to hold out hope. But when you hear the CEO say, and it reflects kind of what I've already believed, that, Sony will be fine with the MCU will be fine without Spider-Man. They were fine before Spider-Man. They'll be fine again. I think Sony will be fine. They've really put out some good stuff lately. I think everything will be okay, even if it's not the best case scenario. You hear these statements. Where's your head at right now when it comes to this whole thing? And what do you make of the statements?
Well, you have to understand how the business of Hollywood works. I know you do, but this is just business as usual. This is a studio taking what they have, their asset, and they're taking it back and they're using it. as they always would. I mean, the fact that we got a Tom Holland Spider-Man in 5 MCU movies is amazing. Now, what will happen is they will take back, Sony's taking back Spider-Man, that's theirs, that's their prerogative, and they'll go make Spider-Man movies. It's just like I always say to people, like, you might have many different friends scattered across, say you live in Los Angeles like we do. I've got many friends that live in Los Angeles. I'm not out every weekend as a group partying with all my friends and doing things. Sometimes I go out with one of my friends. Sometimes I don't see my friends for months at a time. They're going to make a Spider-Man movie where, hey, we're going to see Kraven, or we're going to see Morbius, or we're going to see Venom, or we're going to see somebody else we haven't heard of yet. We don't need the Avengers or the MCU for the next 5 Spider-Man movies. Spider-Man's going to go off and have adventures on his own. And Sony is going to go make these movies just like they made 5 Spider-Man movies previously before Spider-Man was involved in the MCU. And they'll probably be pretty good, as you pointed out. What's really going to be interesting, though, is to see just how good they are. I mean, now they have a high bar that is set for them. They have a high bar. Remember, now they're expected to make $1 billion. Their next Spider-Man movie is expected to make $1 billion. And it will be very interesting with that kind of financial pressure from their parent company, from their shareholders. If Tom Rothman and the fellas back at Sony are able, and Amy Pascal, are able to create a Spider-Man movie on their own, that will make $1 billion. Because if they don't, I think you might be seeing Spider-Man coming back into the MCU.
Oh, I hope not. I hope not. Because you know, and I know this is probably your elite, you know that's a ridiculous notion. You know that's a ridiculous notion.
Well, look, they've got to make money. At the end of the day,
Sure,
it's always going to be. It's all going to be
money. Yes.
And if they do pull off another great movie, I mean, Venom was a huge surprise financially.
Yeah.
Nobody thought it was going to make that much money. And
I didn't.
and now Sony now is expected to exceed that at least. And they're expected to make at least another $1 billion Spider-Man
See,
film.
I don't know. I don't think anybody at Sony right now has... Look, even at Marvel, with Spider-Man being in Avengers movies and in Captain America, even then, one of them just made over $800 million. Only one of the 2 that they made standalone was $1 billion, and that's with Spider-Man in all those films. I think they need to go into this, and I think probably they have some cooler heads over there where they just know, you know what? No, if we make over $700 million, like, look, you can't put out another Spider-Man movie and have it make $475 million.
No, you can't. But you also can't make the 3rd highest grossing Spider-Man movie when you take Spider-Man back. There's pressure there. There's going to be like, you guys weren't able to make a deal and you made $300 million less than the last Spider-Man movie. I mean, they're in. Look, I'm sure they'll rise to the challenge, but I don't think anyone's going to be satisfied. They weren't satisfied with an Amazing Spider-Man 2 that made only, what, 700 and some odd million?
Well, I don't know that they weren't satisfied with that. I think there's a couple things. Number one, when that was all going down, Sony was in a massive state of upheaval, right?
Right.
First of all, the overall company, which is in a much better position now, there was some wondering if Sony might go under at one point. Like, we forget about that now, but when you go back to that year,
sure,
there's a lot of questions about Sony going under as a whole. They weren't doing well as a company overall. The Amazing Spider-Man 2 was a big dip from the Amazing Spider-Man 1. All that kind of stuff. I think you're in a very, very different position now, because I think if you're looking at, the Sony position, I think it would be ridiculous to think that $1 billion, like Rob, you said yourself the other day that we live in this kind of ludicrous time where, like, some people completely unrealistically now suddenly think the bar is $1 billion.
But they made a Venom movie that made over $800 million.
Sure, but you can't just say that everything one of those is now becomes the de facto norm. I think they will be smart and go, you know what? If we put out a Spider-Man movie and it's good, and it's got to be good. I mean, that's the bottom line. It has to be, because if it's bad, if they do a first Spider-Man movie and it's like Spider-Man 3 bad or the Amazing Spider-Man 2 quality, then they're in real trouble, and it doesn't matter if it makes $1 billion.
Look, I think also, I don't know what they're expecting Morbius to do, but Morbius isn't going to gross $800 million.
No, but then again, I was saying Venom wouldn't gross $800 million.
No, but I
don't think Morbius will, but I think they're going to be realistic. All they want right now is they understand, I believe, that they need to create a foundation of establishing a reputation of quality. They're off to a good start. Fans liked Venom. Mm-hmm. We loved Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. If they put out a Morbius movie, I think they know right now it is more important for them to make a Morbius movie that people like and contributes to that foundational base, that they're reforming the overall image of Sony's Spider-Man movies, of saying, actually Sony's Spider-Man movies have a foundation of quality. And I actually think when they're looking at Morbius, they're not looking for it to be an 800, because I think you're absolutely right.
Oh.
This movie ain't going to make 800 million.
Do you know, I have a theory, by the way.
Ooh, I want to hear it.
I've never said this to anybody. Over under 50% Spider-Man is going to show up in that Morbius movie.
I'll go under.
I think that, look, there's no way a Morbius movie can do, I just don't think it can. You put Spider-Man in that Morbius movie, and
But
you
they
make
were already
it work.
shooting that movie before the deal ended.
Oh, I know. I know.
They
but
can't. It's not possible.
We'll see.
You would
We
literally
shall
have
see.
to. They were already shooting the movie. You would literally have to stop, rip up the script, completely start from scratch, and they're done shooting. The movie's wrapped.
The movie is wrapped, but look, as we all know, they do reshoots. I mean, hell, they're reshooting Rise of Skywalker right now.
But you're not fundamentally changing the entire, like, inserting Spider-Man into
I'll
it.
bet you.
Oh.
I'll bet you.
You know what? You know why I'll take that bet? Now, look, by the way, that's notwithstanding cameo, a post-credit cameo. I'm not.
I am not saying a post-credit cameo.
You're actually saying
I'm
a character. Okay, I will take that bet every day, because here's why. I'm standing by what I said before, where I believe that Sony understands right now the most important thing for them to do in the next 1 or 2 movies is establish a reputation of quality, that audiences like their movies. And if you at the last second rip up your movie just to shoehorn in Spider-Man for the sake of a few shekels, they're going to undermine themselves.
I don't think they're going to rip it up. I think the way I see it is the way Black Panther was included in Civil War. I could see Spider-Man being included in this Morbius movie,
but they hadn't started shooting Civil War when they put Black.
No, they hadn't. But it's not out of the realm of possibility. I'm just saying, now that they have Spider-Man back.
But you're saying you're taking over 50% on that.
Yeah.
See, I don't even think they're going to put Spider-Man in the Venom movie, other than maybe a post-credit scene. I certainly don't think they're going to do Morbius. But I don't know. We'll see.
I think Morbius. The thing about Morbius is, how do you tie in? It's a tough tie-in to the Spider-Verse. I'll tell you, man, I think Spider-Man's going to show up in that movie. I could be wrong. By the way, I have no knowledge. I am pulling this theory.
We're speculating.
I'm pulling this theory. I don't want people going, Rob Burnett said.
But
I'm
listen.
like, no, I don't. I have no knowledge. But if I was Sony, if I was Tom Rothman, I'd be like, you know what? We got to show our little good faith. Why don't we throw Tom Holland? Hell, I'd pay the guy $5 million to be in that Morbius movie.
But you're putting the quality of the movie at risk with the last second.
I don't think you're putting the quality. I think if they're going to do it, it's going to be done really, really well.
Whew, man, look, to be fair, though, I think you have said some much crazier things, and some of them have actually turned out to be real. So, I mean, you're right. I mean, look, the possibility, but again, I don't even think, let alone Morbius, I don't even think he's going to be in Venom other than maybe a post-credit scene, but we'll have to wait and see. But again, going back to the $1 billion thing, I think it'd be ludicrous for anybody to say we have an expectation of a Spider-Man movie now that he's out of the MCU, back into this new fledgling universe, all this kind of stuff, that when Marvel only made one of their 2 movies made $1 billion, and that was after him being in Infinity War and Endgame and all that kind of stuff. I think it would be really unwise for anybody to go with those sorts of expectations. They make $700 million on a standalone Sony movie without Marvel. I think that's a win. I think it's a big win.
I just think that everybody in Hollywood thinks they know everything, especially when you're in positions of power. These guys at Sony, we shall see. Remember, they're the studio that made Men in Black International. And they're the studio that made Ghostbusters. And now they're full of their Venom money, and they're full of their Oscar win for Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, and they're full of distributing a movie that made $1 billion. So I understand. They're riding high on the hog. It's easy for everybody to be magnanimous, but let's wait for that first day of whatever Spider-Man movie. Let's wait for Morbius the Living Vampire to come out, and let's wait for their Spider-Man movie to come out, or Venom 2, which I actually have very high hopes for.
So do I, especially with Andy Serkis involved.
Proof's in the pudding.
You and I would both agree, though. I think you and I would both agree that more important than whether it makes $1 billion than 800 million. I think you and I would probably both agree, long term, the most important thing is that these next 2 movies, particularly the first Spider-Man movie, which I guess will be the third, have to be good. Because if they're not good, this is all just academic. Everything else is just academic, right?
You know what? After it's going to be really interesting to see what their regime does, because I can see that they're these creatives there, these studio executives, After reading, I don't know.
I will tell you this.
see.
Sony
Good luck.
has really impressed me the last little while. They've made some major corporate changes, like major leadership structure changes.
Yeah.
They've been doing some good things. I will tell you what, though. If you're right, and it ain't impossible that you're right, if you're right, and me thinking it's too late to even put him into Venom, which isn't coming till well after Morbius, if they decide to shoehorn Spider-Man into Morbius at the last second, every ounce of goodwill I've started to develop towards Sony is gone. I will lose all respect for their judgment.
What if Spider-Man and Morbius? I mean, to me, if I heard that they put Spider-Man into this Morbius movie, I would be so excited. I'm like, no way.
It would be so last second and so rushed and so shoehorned. Especially after, like, we've already shot the movie. Let's now restructure the movie to incorporate an entirely different character as a major point in our film.
Can be done.
It could be done.
And you know what? If I was running Sony, I mean, the real question is, could you get Tom Holland to do it? I'm sure you can. Just pay him the cheddar.
Well, Tom Holland's, again, he's been like Sony. So,
and why wouldn't you want to work with an Oscar winner?
Yep, he's saying all the right things. He's saying, I'm looking forward. This is going to be great. We're going to make them even better, blah, blah, blah. I still like the idea of Lord and Miller doing a live-action Spider-Man movie with Tom Holland.
I think it's a great idea.
That could be so freaking awesome. Anyway, guys, question is, what do you think about all this stuff? The comments, what are they going to do? What do you think about the statement made by the CEO of Sony Pictures? Jump on down the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, with that, let's now move on with our main topics today. How do we select our main topics here on the John Campea Show? Well, it's really rather simple. See, you guys come up with the main topics by simply going over to www.thejohncampeashow.com/contact. Once you're there, make sure you guys fill it out with your topic or question, hit submit, and then maybe, just maybe, you might see your topic or question featured here on the John Campea Show. With that down, let's move on to main topic number 1. And our first main topic today gets submitted to us by David Goel, who writes, "Hey, John, I love Shazam. Me too, brother. However, one thing I noticed is that the child actor, Asher Angel, is already 16 by the time Shazam comes out. If it does, he will be at least 18. Your thoughts?" All right. And you're not wrong, man. You're not wrong. There's been a question going around. As I want to bring this up here just to make sure I've got the right information. I'm going to be bringing up the Shazam IMDb page here. All right, so a question's been going around about, with the premise of Shazam about he is this kid who transforms into the world's mightiest mortal, at one point Captain Marvel. Now he is Shazam, right? But to maintain that, a concept. In an animated thing, it's easy because the kid's always 13 or whatever. Here's the thing. The earliest this film is going to come out is 2021 for Shazam 2. That's the earliest. And by the way, there's never been a 100% official thing saying they are going to do it. I think we all know that they are going to do one, but earliest is going to be 2021. This kid who I've never had a beer. By the way, just so we're very clear here, I freaking love Shazam. That movie is awesome. I love it. That said, Asher Angel is not going to be 18 years old. He's going to be 19. In Canada, he's going to be making drives to Canada so he can legally go to bars and order a shot. I mean, because in Canada, that's the drinking age. He's old enough to go to war. He's old enough to drive a car. He's old enough to do whatever. His co-star, Jack Dylan Grazer, is going to be 18 years old, legally an adult at that point. You are going to run into a problem at some point where it's like the notion of he's the little kid and he says Shazam and now I'm a grown-up. It's the reverse. It's big. It's Tom Hanks is big with superpowers. But that's gone when you've got, Billy Batson with 6 O'Clock Shadow and, talking about his trip to Vegas last weekend. I mean, it's a little bit different. Now, you can just make them up to make sure they try to look younger, make them act like younger. But at this stage, you can only look like this for so long. And that could be an inherent flaw in the strategy of Shazam. I mean, it very well could be, I suppose. To me, the only answer out of that is that at some point narratively, you say that the Marvel family, that's their permanent state. That as you know, this is what he looks like all the time. That he's in his Shazam form, that's what he's like all the time. Because at some point you can't say that one is the younger version of the other because it's just not going to work for long. Whether or not that becomes an issue for Shazam 2 or not, maybe they can get away with one more. But I think even that's questionable at this point, and that is going to be something they have to deal with. I don't know, Rob, do you think the aging of the younger stars of the film is going to be an issue? And if it is, how do you deal with it moving forward if you still want to make Shazam movies?
One, I don't think it is, because the first movie, you could equate it to big, right? But the next movie could be about, well, what happens when you have the Shazam power and you're getting older? What happens if you're in college?
So you'd work it into the narrative.
I would absolutely make it part of the narrative. And I think that would be, in a way, that's part of what it means to have that power, is as you're growing older, what does that do to your life? Like, can you imagine if you did like a Van Wilder, not with Ryan Reynolds, but you're making a Van Wilder, right?
Yeah.
And you're Van Wilder, but you can also turn into Shazam. Like, how would that movie go? I think that would be hilarious. You want to throw the most monster kegger that's ever been shown, and you have a superhero at your disposal to help you do that. I mean, I could see the first one's big, the second movie's Animal House, and then the third movie, as you get into your 20s or even your 30s, what happens if you're a family man, and you've got two families? You've got the Marvel family, and you've got your own family.
And you have a really awkward scene where Billy is about to make love to his wife. She goes, say Shazam first.
Oh, dude. I mean, that kind of thing, I'm telling you, there could be a really interesting way to do that. And I think, and part of it would eventually be, ultimately, if you had 3 movies, you're leading up to the point in time when in your own life, you have to give up the power. And that becomes part of what the mythology is that you get to a certain age and you no longer wield this power anymore. And what's that like? I could see that could be a really heartbreaking story, that at the end you trade your Marvel family and then everybody in the Marvel family has to go on their separate ways. That could be a really powerful, emotional thing that we've never seen in a superhero movie.
It would be interesting. So the question here, guys, how do you deal with this? Do you think that you can just keep things the same and just pretend that they're young? Do you think they have to just phase the kid actors out and just say they're permanently this? Or do you work it into the aging of them into the story narratively, like Rob is suggesting? How do you think is the best way for them to approach this? Jump down into the comments section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, with that down, let's move on to the second main topic today. And our second main topic today gets submitted to us by Troy. And Troy writes, "Hey, John. Like you, I love A-List. I just received a message from them about watching pro football in an AMC theater. There is no charge for the game, but you need to purchase a $10 meal in order to go. I think this is absolutely brilliant. Have you heard about this? And what do you think?" All right, thanks a lot for sending that in, Troy. And yep, I got the same message. I got a very surprising message the other day from AMC because I am an A-List member. And the basic gist is this. We are going to, at select AMC theaters, and there's a bunch of them. It's not like there's just 5 or 6. There's a bunch of them. In select AMC theaters, on Sundays, we're going to start showing some football games. And in our theaters that have the leather recliner seats. And you get to come for free. We're not even going to charge you. All you got to do, though, is do what you probably would have done anyway, which is at minimum buy a $10 food gift card. Basically, that's it. So you spend at least $10 in food and drink, which, let's be honest, if we're going to go to a place to watch the game, we're going to be spending more than that anyway. I have a couple of thoughts about this. Let's start with the negative one. Here's the first negative thought I have about it. The first negative thought is that unlike, say, when I go to a Buffalo Wild Wings to watch football, I have the option. They'll have about 40 different screens up, right? And when I show up to Buffalo Wild Wings on a Sunday to watch some football, they say, which game are you interested in? And I'll say, normally, the Patriots game. And they'll, all right, Patriots game, and they bring out a chart of the seating chart for the entire restaurant. The Patriots game is being shown on TV 7, 14, and 19. So which one of the TVs you want to be close by? I'll go by that one. And they put me there. And so I can go there and watch any game that I want. The big drawback with this AMC one is that they only got one game. And if they're showing a game that isn't your team, or they're showing a game that's not a game you're interested in, or whatever, for football fans, that can be a major thing. So that's one big drawback right off the top. That being said, there's a couple of big advantages. I like going out to watch the football game. Don't get me wrong. I'm totally happy. I'm getting the NFL Sunday ticket here at home so I can watch all the games. But I like, when me and some friends get together, watch football, to go out and watch it. It gives a little bit more of an event feel to it, because I really love my football. And the idea of a movie theater wanting to leverage and use their facilities to be profitable for the theater itself, I think is a great idea. Now, if this, Rob, was in one of the regular theaters with the regular seats, I'd be, oh, okay, it's still a decent idea. But the fact that they're going to put them in their prime theaters, where you can get in there, get the big leather recliners, get hot dogs, nachos, some soda, whatever, watch the game, and otherwise it's free entry on a big screen, I don't know if this is going to work. But I'll tell you what, I like that they're trying it. Why not use these movie theaters? Because remember, we've always said the movie theaters are not in the movie business. They're in the candy business. Movie theaters are kept in business. Their main source of income is what they sell at the concession stand. And if they can bring people into the theaters, on times, especially in Los Angeles, where football games are on at 10 o'clock in the morning, not a lot of people going to the movies at 10 o'clock in the morning. If you can take advantage of that, brilliant. Again, I don't know if it's going to work, but I applaud the effort for trying. What do you think about this little initiative?
I like it. I think what's not to like, especially like you said, premium theaters, but they don't serve booze, do they?
They do. They do, because like at the AMC Burbank 16, they've got the bar there, and you can bring the bar. You can bring the drinks right in.
If I can have a tasty IPA, a cold frosty one, I think this is a great idea. I think it's a lot of fun. It's a cool novelty. It brings some excitement about, especially if it's a big game. If you're watching, a big matchup, a big rivalry. I would love that. Like when I get to watch the Seahawks destroy the San Francisco 49ers, I use that as an opportunity to, I think that's great. And why not, dude? I mean, especially if the projection is great, and now with high def and with the kind of screens and the kind of projectors they have, what a cool thing to do. And can you imagine doing that like during the playoffs?
Oh,
I mean, it's like going to the public house in Los Feliz. I like doing that. I like hanging out with a bunch of people, especially, you're all there. You've all rolled out to go see a game in a movie theater. So everybody's excited. Everybody knows, hey, you're an idiot just like me. I've come out to this movie theater on a Sunday with my buddies to watch a game. I think that's pretty cool. Family bonding time. How much fun's that going to be if you were there with your son or your daughter, your wife, your father, your grandparents? I mean, it could be really fun. And it's not that expensive. $10 for lunch or whatever, if that's all you're going to spend, that's not that much.
I'd probably spend more.
Me too, dude.
Yeah.
I mean, I want to get ripped. But I just think, I love this idea. And
here's the other little fringe benefit. Get people who maybe don't normally come to the movie theaters come into the movie theaters. And now all of a sudden, that's a place I go. You know what? I'm going to go Thursday night, go see a movie. Maybe I wouldn't have otherwise. It just gets people into the habit of coming to the movie theaters.
Now, is this only for A-list subscribers? Do you have to be an A-list subscriber?
I looked into this and I couldn't get enough answers by the time we started the show. My understanding is if you are an A-list or Stubs member, then it's free entry. I wonder if you still can go. You know what? I got to look into it, because a part of me thinks it's this, you got to be an A-list member and you got to use your A-list to reserve your seat to go, right?
Yeah.
But maybe they'll have this thing, hey, if you're not an A-list member, $5 you get in, whatever. I don't know. Again, can you see any other potential drawbacks? The one I see is that it's going to make it difficult to get off the ground, considering you can only show one game. And there's a lot of different people have a lot of different games they want to watch on a weekend. Can you think of any? Because I can't think of any other big drawbacks off the top of my head.
No, and I think that this shows the kind of innovation that, like, movie theaters exist. And obviously, the idea that they have to wait around for the 8 giant tentpole movies Disney is going to release to get them through the year. I like this kind of thinking. I like this kind of innovation. I think using movie theaters as a venue for other things is smart. I think it makes it fun. I think it's also beneficial for the NFL. Yeah. Frankly, I mean, as we always hear about, attendance is down, or I like this idea, man. I don't see that there's a downside if it's handled correctly.
And again, I don't know if it's going to work. I'm not saying it will work, but I like the idea and I like the attempt. What do you guys think about all this? Will you be tempted to check it out if you're a football fan? Obviously, if you're not a football fan, this doesn't apply to you. But jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right. With that down, let's move on to our third main topic today. And our third main topic today is sent in to us from Reed Foreman, who writes, "Hey crew, I'm a huge fan of the show. Thank you so much, Reed. I was wondering if you all saw the trailer for Blumhouse's Black Christmas remake. I'm a big fan of the original and one of the only people who like the 2000s remake, but this trailer didn't do it for me. I wanted to know what you guys thought. Thanks." All right. Thanks a lot for sending in the question, man. And for those of you who don't know anything about, Black Christmas, maybe you've heard about it before.
Shame on you.
Yeah, well, shame on you, number one.
It's Canadian.
This is the synopsis that's been put out by Blumhouse for this. Hawthorne College is quieting down for the holidays. One by one, sorority girls on campus are being killed by a stalker, because it's not a horror movie unless that's exactly what happens. But the killer is about to discover that this generation's women aren't willing to become hapless victims as they fight back. And that synopsis really does kind of sum up what you get in the trailer for Black Christmas. I had not seen the trailer for Black Christmas until last night when I was in to watch It Too. They played the trailer for Black Christmas. I'm like, ooh, good, because I didn't watch this online yet today. So I settled in and not a good trailer. It was clean. Look, I expect in some good horror films to get some cliches. It's part of a horror film. It's part of the fun of a horror film. But it was like, I see nothing. This is like generic horror movie number one. The movie might be brilliant when it comes out, but I'm saying we're just talking about the trailer. I didn't see anything interesting other than the fact that, Wesley was in it. That Princess Bride dude was in there. Carl, how do you pronounce Ewell's last? Is it Ewell's? Is it? I always hear pronounced.
Carrie Elways.
Carrie Elways.
Yeah.
Elways. I always say Ewell's. Elways. Anyway, so seeing him in there, the Dread Pirate Roberts, that's great to see. That's awesome. But everything else was like, okay, stereotypical little slasher film. And again, maybe it'll be brilliant, but if we're just talking about the trailer, because I have a lot of faith in Blumhouse. But if we're just going to be honest and just talking about the trailer, I got to agree with you, dude. I didn't like it all that much. Rob, did you have a chance to see the trailer?
I did. I'm a fan of the original. The original, a lot of people talk about like Halloween being the prototype of the slasher film, but really I've always thought, I think a lot of people think that it's actually Black Christmas, Bob Clark's Black Christmas. And I like this trailer. It looks like Carrie Elwes, like there's a satanic cult in it.
Yep.
I'm in. I think they're playing on funny tropes. I'm sure there's going to be the people that say, oh, this is just another woke social justice warrior feminine empowerment movie. I'm like, oh, I'm all about that. What's a sorority in general for? It's not just, for those things. It's for empowering women to be the best women they can be. And if they're going to kick ass against a slasher, I'm like, okay. It did look a little by the numbers. It kind of looked a little TV movie to me.
It did, yeah.
The lighting was, first of all, the original Black Christmas has that sort of 70s grittiness to it. This looked way overlit. To me, it looked like it was a CW show. Not to bag on anyone who's making CW shows, but it looked not lush, and I was like, but I was amused by it.
Not lush.
Carrie Elwes, I'm like, okay, if you're in Kiss the Girls mode, I'm in. If you're running a satanic cult and that's what it turns out, like there's some, and it's some idiot kid sacrificing girls to join this cult, I'm like, that could be kind of funny. Could have a Scream vibe to it. I don't know.
I got hope for the movie because I have a lot of faith in Blumhouse, so I still have hope in the movie. I gotta say I didn't like the trailer. Question is, guys, what did you think about the trailer? Did it heighten your anticipation for the movie? Did it not do much for you? Which way do you lean on that? Jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, with that down, let's move on to our fourth main topic today. And our fourth main topic today comes to us from Adi Dorbrea, who writes, hello from Romania, John. Well, hello, Addy. Big fan. With Joker released in theaters on October 4th, What chances does Gemini Man have at the box office? All right. Thanks a lot for the question, man. And yes, in all the excitement about Joker coming out, I think one of the films that we're overlooking a little bit, because I'll tell you what, I think this movie looks great. I really do. It's the new Will Smith, John Woo film, Gemini Man. I think it looks really great. Here's the catch. They're opening just 1 week apart from each other. Joker gets into theaters first on October 4th. Of course, that's opening there wide. It's going to be opening against a couple of limited release films. And then the following week, yeah, we got that comedy Jexy that everybody loves the trailer and I didn't for some reason, but whatever. We got the Addams Family animated film, which I don't think looks very good at all. And then you got Gemini Man, which I think looks great. What chances does Gemini Man have against Joker? Well, I think it's going to be fine. And the reason I think it's going to be fine is simply this. These are two very different films. They're going to appeal to a good chunk of the same demographic, although they are very different films. And also, we got to remember, Joker is going to be an R-rated film. This is not a movie that's going to be opening to $200 million. You know, we're talking about whether Joker can open to $100 million. I think it'll be huge if it does open to $100 million. And then you're going to be going into week 2, roughly 50% drop. You're going to probably be looking at a $50 million second weekend. Can Gemini Man do well if Joker is eating up $50 million at the box office? I'd say yes, particularly when you take in consideration that Joker opening on the 4th isn't opening against anything else in wide release. There's nothing else there. So it's not like the week before you had 3 wide release movies, which is often the case, and it's got to compete in its second week against all of those. It's only the Joker. And a lot of people are going to see Joker already on week 1. And I think there is going to be a lot of room. And the fact that Gemini Man is going to have a little bit of a different appeal. It's more of an action adventure kind of film with a little bit of thriller in there as well. Do I think they're going to hurt each other? Honestly, I normally don't like the idea of opening a huge blockbuster 1 week apart from another huge blockbuster. But I don't think Joker is going to be huge for what it is, but it's not going to be huge by Avengers standards, by a Star Wars movie standard. It's going to be absolutely monstrously big for what it is, but I don't think it's going to be that big. So honestly, I think both these films can and probably will be just fine. I think they're going to do fine here. Robert, I don't know. Do you think Gemini Man could be in a little bit of a position of peril opening just 1 week after Joker?
I don't. I mean, Big Willie, fabulous he's Will Smith, man. I mean, it's Big Willie style, coming back 2 times with his young version and his old version coming off of Aladdin. I think there's a lot of excitement around this movie. I think it looks, like you said, I think it looks really cool. We haven't had this kind of an action movie, more of a gritty action film, big studio picture like this. Ong Lee, Oscar-winning director, using cutting-edge visual effects. By the way,
I said John Woo earlier. You're right. It's Ong Lee.
Yeah. And I can't wait to see this movie. And let's face it, I mean, the Joker is going to be kind of a bummer. You know, it's an R-rated movie about a man who doesn't have a great life. Tries to make it better through by any means necessary, but it's not Big Willie with guns in his hand. I mean, I think the Gemini Man is going to be really cool. I think people are going to turn out for it, and I really don't think. I think there's definitely room. You know, that comedy Lexi that's coming out the same day.
I'm the only person in the world that didn't like the trailer, but everybody else loves the trailer.
Dude, it's you know, it's like a new version of her, but different. It looks really funny. And we're getting that Addams Family movie that doesn't look so great to me, even though I hope it's great. I'm excited about the movies that are coming out, and I think, look, Joker and Gemini Man, 2 big, I'd call them genre movies that are of interest to all of us. I'm excited we're getting them. It's great. I'm excited to be excited about a movie like Gemini Man that isn't a major tentpole. It's an original vision. Cannot wait. By an amazing director.
And by the way, I never thought, even when you don't consider when Gemini Man is opening, I never thought Gemini Man was going to open to 110 million.
No.
In the first place. So I believe on that weekend, when Gemini Man opens, it'll be the number 1 film at the box office. It will be number 1 over Joker. I think overall Joker may make more money in general, but I really do. I think there's enough room there. I don't think either of these are going to cannibalize each other too awful much. I think they'll both be fine.
Yeah, and look, Joker's a movie that is not going to be for everyone.
True. Yep.
So it isn't the feel-good. It's not Civil War, and it's not Captain Marvel.
A lot of the things about Joker, and I think you've kind of pointed this out before too, Rob, is that a lot of the things that make Joker very appealing to us, to some of us, is going to be the exact same things why it won't be appealing to other people. And so it's just a different kind of movie. But they never made this movie to be a $900 million film. They never made it to be that. So
it doesn't have that budget.
Yeah. So listen, guys, what do you think about that? Do you think Gemini Man could be in trouble opening that close to Joker? Do you think more like we do that? No, it's everything's going to be fine. What do you think? Jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right. With that down, let's now move on to our fifth and final main topic today. And our fifth and final main topic today comes to us from Barry Neufeld, who writes, "Hi, John. Everyone talks about the golden age of comic book movies that we live in right now, but it seems to me that the last couple of years has also really given us the golden age of comic book TV shows. With incredible shows like Arrow, Legion, Umbrella Academy, Doom Patrol, The Boys, and a bunch of others, I was wondering, how would you rank the top 5 superhero shows right now? Thanks." And you know what, man? I think, Barry, you raise a great point. That, yes, we do talk about this incredible age we live in of the golden age of comic book movies where we got, Shazam and Aquaman and Venom and Avengers and Captain Marvel and SpiderMan and all this kind of stuff. We do live in an incredible golden age. But I think you're also right in suggesting that we might be overlooking just how good of an age we have as far as comic book material goes on television. And like even myself, there have been a lot of comic book shows come out that I thought that looks stupid and I ended up really liking it. Like Krypton, which has now just been canceled at the end of season 2, but that's on right now. I thought that was a stupid sounding idea for a show. I really did. I thought, oh God. And then I watched season 1. I'm like, you know what? That's pretty good. Black Lightning. I thought that looks like a dumb, look at that costume. Come on. I really like that show. Even when The Flash came out, I was like, really? You're going to do one on Flash? In principle, but this Barry Allen character you introduced in Arrow on and I ended up loving it. Agent Carter of S.H.I.E.L.D., the Peggy Carter show, I thought was great.
I did too.
There's a lot. It just, if you look at the CW alone, I don't love them all, but they have a huge thing. And now every network is coming out with superhero material. We are actually living, and it's understandable that the movie side is overshadowing it a little bit. It is understandable because there is a lot going on in the movie side. But we are living in a golden age of seriously superhero films or superhero material on television. So to ask the question, what do you think are the 5 best? And at first I go, well, that's going to be hard to even put together 5 that I like. But then proving your point in the message, I started thinking about, I was like, oh my God, actually, no.
Yeah.
There's a lot of options here. So Rob, you know what? Why don't we kick it off with you? If you were going to say what you think are the best 5, and it's okay if the season's over, what do you think are the best 5 comic book superhero related materials on television right now? What would you say?
Well, for me, I got to go number 1's The Boys. I thought The Boys exceeded the comic book source material, and I think what it's done, it's both a deconstruction of the superhero tale, and yet it's still a superhero tale, and the superheroes are the supervillains, or it's just very to say The Boys is nuanced, even though it is, and I was quite surprised at just how good that show is. Secondly, of course, Umbrella Academy, which was a comic I liked. I have 2 absolute editions of the Umbrella Academy. I really enjoyed it. I was blown away by how good I thought the show was. A show that was pretty goofy, and it's pretty goofy, and yet it's done so well. I really enjoyed the characters. The storytelling was a little, I would say, baroque, but I really enjoyed it. I love the acting. Not your traditional superhero show. Now a show that I've just come on to that you've talked about a lot, which, by the way, has a lot of, it resembles, it's funny, there's a lot of Doom Patrol. Now, I'd read various incarnations of Doom Patrol, but the idea that a Grant Morrison-esque Doom Patrol, that you could make Robot Man work on screen, all of this stuff it's amazing to me that we live in a world where these shows even exist. That someone said, yeah, we should do the Umbrella Academy TV show.
Nutty.
Now, as far as all the CW shows go, I gotta hand it to Legends of Tomorrow, because at first it's always been goofy. It's always been a wacky show, but But there's a little inherent goofiness in all of the CW shows, even in Arrow. I mean, the seasons have been up and down.
Well, you could argue there's a little bit of inherent goofiness in all superhero shows.
Well, that's true.
To some degree, yeah.
But Legends of Tomorrow, look, as soon as they put John Constantine in Legends of Tomorrow, I'm like, oh my God, really? But yes. And so of all the CW shows, I love the fact that Legends of Tomorrow is hanging on. Again, I love the cast. I love the it's not the show that I would normally like, but it's amazing. Now, I actually argued with this fifth position about I wanted to put Titans here to believe it or not, because I love the Titans. I just don't love the show. I really like Swamp Thing. And I don't understand, like, watching it, I'm like, as far as the first season goes, maybe it's not perfect, but I thought it was really beautifully made. I don't know what behind the scenes turmoil were going on, but I loved the Swamp Thing comic, and I really think this captured it had a great feel to it. I thought it was a great adaptation of Swamp Thing. I loved where it was going, and it deeply saddens me to think that we're not going to get another season, especially when there's shows like Pennyworth on TV, which I even watched the first episode of that and thought, that's pretty good, but those are my five. And John, I'm excited about what we're getting. I can't believe, who knows what's next? Unbelievable. If somebody told me they're going to make Amazing Man series, which is a very obscure DC character that I love, or, if they're going to make a Gnort series, Gnort from Green Lantern, or they're going to make a Fred Hempbeck Destroys the Marvel Universe series, I'd be like, really? Well, okay. Because anything's possible now.
And what's really interesting, too, is that we're getting comic book material, superhero material, that isn't the traditional Superman, Batman, Captain America. We're getting all these different things. So, and which is reflected in my list. And by the way, my top three are the same as yours, just in different order. But here's my top list right now. I'm going to start from the bottom and actually go to the top. And I'm going to actually start with the aforementioned, where are we here? Oh, yes. The Black Lightning. I'm going to start with Black Lightning. This was a show that, not only did I think that the costume looked ridiculous,
awesome.
I thought it looked awful. I still think it looks awful.
Black Lightning rules.
That being said, I can't remember the name of the actor, but the guy who played Dexter's dad in Dexter as kind of the father figure to him.
James Remar.
He's great in it. I love the family dynamic. I really do. I like the fact that it goes, you would expect a show like this to be very, very heavy-handed in its social commentary, and I find it's oddly lighter. It's a little bit more subtle than you would think, right? It's a little bit more subtle than you would think. And I like the characters. I like the dialogue. I have fun with it. It's a totally different type of show than, say, The Boys, but I really dig it. So actually, for 5 for me, Black Lightning comes there. Number 4, The Flash. I love this show. And before things like The Boys and Umbrella Academy and Doom Patrol started coming out, I would have said it's probably my favorite superhero show on television right now. Now, I'm not including in here Daredevil and things like that, because that is now officially off air and has been off air for a while. So they don't count right now. So maybe my list would look a bit different if this was an all-time list. But for right now, The Flash. I doubted this show when they were launching it. I didn't really like last season, but this most recent season I thought recovered really nicely. Again, it's all about the characters. I like hanging out the characters. That's huge in these types of shows. You got to like the characters.
Yeah.
You got to buy into how they're written, and you got to like hanging out with them. Because you're in your living room, you put them on your screen, you're hanging out with them. You got to like hanging out with them. And I find they do with The Flash. And then we get into my top 3. Same 3 shows, just different order than you. Number 3, Umbrella Academy. And it's so weird because these 3 shows are so close to each other, these next 3. But Umbrella Academy, I'll put in the number 3 spot. Imaginative, creative, doing different types of things, telling different types of stories. The kid who plays the younger, he's still stuck in a young body, even though kid's acting is so stupidly good. Because I so believe he's a 68-year-old guy in a little kid's body. I totally buy into it. I just thought, and then when the visual effects needed to be there, it was great. There's tragedy in the story. There's family dynamics in the story. It's just a really smart show. And so, yeah, Umbrella Academy is there. And it's one of the producers of the show plays in our Star Wars role-playing game group. And I gotta tell you, it's hard every week when he comes over not to pester him about, because they're shooting season 2 right now, and I do not ask him anything about season 2. It's so hard for me not to pester him for information, because I'm so dying to know, but I don't do it. Anyway, there's that. Number 2, and again, these top 3 are so close to each other. The Boys. I mean, again, they took the notion that's been going around a little bit lately about, hey, what happens if superheroes were the assholes, right? That's not a new concept, but they really take it and ran with it. And again, episode 4, the airplane sequence, it took that show to a totally different level, because I felt that.
Yeah.
I felt it. And the fact that a lot of these characters, even by the end, you realize the Homelander isn't just a one-dimensional mustache-twirling thing. They start to give you a little bit of his background and history. And it's like, no wonder this dude is totally screwed up. But at the same time, just what they've done with it is fantastic, and I cannot wait for season 2. But number 1 for me is still going to be, even though it's very, very close to the other 2, is Doom Patrol. I wasn't going to watch the show at all. I thought it looked stupid. It was because of our viewers that they kept pestering, you got to watch the show, you got to watch the show. It is probably some of the smartest superhero writing I've ever seen, because it incorporates the utter ridiculousness of the concept. Robot Man and all this stuff, and a lot of the ridiculousness that is just so delicious in The Boys. But it uses that ridiculousness as a container to talk about deep, heavy, real issues from past trauma, abuse, mental illness, prejudice, things in our society, all this kind of, like, it deals with really deep indie film kind of stuff and material wrapped in a container of absolutely bonkers things where the butts get loose and we flex the wrong muscle. And if you've seen Doom Patrol, you know what we're talking about. It's just some of the most inspired, ridiculously good stuff I've ever seen. Now, some people might be wondering why I don't have Lucifer on this list, because everybody knows I love Lucifer. Because look at the title, the top 5 superhero shows. While Lucifer does have its roots in the graphic novel world, it's not what I would consider a superhero show by any stretch of the imagination. So I don't include it here. But
oh, come on, the devil's not a superhero, John.
Well, not in that show. I mean, it's just a regular cop procedural, really. But Rob, you look at this. You and I talked just a little bit before we started the show today. And you raised a great point about just, I don't know if people today get it, and that includes us, just how good we have it right now as fans of this type of material.
Bruh, I see people bitching and moaning and complaining online about everything in the world, and I think to myself, my God, I mean, when I was a kid, when I used to get the TV guide my mom would go to the grocery store on Wednesday and get the TV guide. And
my mom used to get it too.
Yeah, and then like in August or September, they had the fall preview issue. And it was like getting the Sears Wish book when you were a kid. And you're like, I wonder if there's going to be one remotely fantastical show. I might get Manimal or Automan or some just god-awful...
Greatest American Hero.
Well, that was pretty good, actually. It turned out, but that was one show. Give me one. And now it's like you and I can each make top 5 lists that have different shows on them. I mean, we live in a golden age of fun. Or as John, let me just point out that we live in a golden age of fun and wonder.
And you, of course, are the master of fun and wonder.
I'm the master of fun and wonder, and I am the Viscount of verisimilitude, as somebody said. I think they said I was the Viscount. I don't know what they said. But it's an amazing world that we live in, and we should all just I mean, dude, there's a Pennyworth show. There's a show about Alfred
Which is
TV.
really good, by the way.
I mean, yeah, it is. And I was like, I wasn't going to watch it, and I'm like... All right. Now, I just hope at the end, how does Pennyworth become a butler?
I don't know if they'll ever get that far.
I know. But, dude, we live in a wonderful time. I'm happy we live in this time. And we should all, I hope, every day not take it all for granted and sit down and go, this is pretty cool to be a fan of this material because it's a wacky, wonderful time we live in.
Well, guys, listen. There's a lot of material out there right now. What do you think are the top 5 best comic book superhero shows on TV right now? I'm sure your list will look a little bit different than ours, and that's the beautiful thing about it. Jump down to the comment section below and let us know, or jump in the super chat, let us know how you would rank your top 5 right now. We'd be curious to hear that. Okay, guys, with all that stuff down and out of the way, we're going to go on and take your live questions now for the remainder of the show. But before we get to that, we are going to take a short break here. We're going to take a moment to stretch our legs, refill our drinks, and all that kind of stuff. So hang tight with us, guys. We're going to be right back, getting to live questions. I'm sure we're going to talk a lot more about all these issues we discussed and the things you guys want to talk about. We'll be right back. See you in a minute. And we are back. Thank you guys for your abundance of patience with us as we took a little bit of a break, refilled our drink, and now we're ready to keep rocking and rolling with your live questions. Let's not waste any time. Jump right over and start getting those live questions. The first one up comes to us from Nathan Oswald, who writes, birthdays today. Naomi Harris, I love her. I love her. She's great in Bond too. Is 43 years old. Justin Whalen, is he the kid who was Jimmy Olsen in that Superman Lois and Clark show? I think he is. Anyway, Idris Elba is 47 years old. Michael Winslow is 61, and comedian Jeff Foxworthy is 61. I like that you share those celebrity birthdays with us. I actually look forward to that every day.
Is Michael Winslow the guy from the Police Academy movies?
Yes, he's the sound effect man. He's the sound effect guy.
Yeah, wow.
Yep. Also in Spaceballs, by the way.
Yeah.
Okay, Razor's Edge Frisbee writes, one of two. I'm surprised at how much I disagree. Hold on, let me just adjust this a bit. I disagree with your It Chapter 2 review. I love that they went full horror fantasy in the third act. All right. I actually thought most of the horror scenes in general were well done. Didn't mind most of the CGI, to be honest. It kind of flew by for me. Respect your opinion. And hey, listen, that's the beautiful thing about these movies, man, is that we all watch them. We have different opinions. Just because I didn't like it doesn't mean you shouldn't like it. And me not liking it doesn't undermine in any way your love of it. From my own personal point of view, the horror didn't work. I didn't find it scary. I found that they didn't take the extra effort to make sure it made sense with what was going on in the movie, and I felt it was really dragged out. But that was my experience. That doesn't mean that doesn't undermine yours at all. And I love the fact that you enjoyed it, and I celebrate that. That's great, Razors, and totally good. I can see, and by the way, Razor, you're not alone. There are other people who really like this movie too, and that's great. And we all have different opinions about it, and that's the best thing about it. All right, let's see. Mad1306 writes, binge watched Marvelous Mrs. Maisel with my wife. Love that show. Love both seasons. Didn't care for the last 10 minutes of episode in season 2, but I cannot wait till season 3. Rob, this movie or show, I should say, is kind of like the epitome of a show that does not look like it was made for me at all in the least.
Me neither.
And I only got into it because Anne grabbed me and said, John, I started watching this show. You need to watch this with me. And I'm like, fine. Love it. Just love this thing. I don't know, Rob, your thoughts on it.
First of all, I love this show so much. It's a period piece. I mean, how can you not love a show with a great Lenny Bruce, the comedian who pretty much changed all comedy, is a supporting character? And the whole idea about New York and the evocation of that period and everything about it, it's so removed from my experience of the world, but yet the acting is first rate, the relationships are first rate. Tony Shalhoub, everything about Maren Hinkle. I love the cast of this show so much. It is so delightful to watch. And to me, it does what great storytelling should do, which it transcends genre, it transcends subject matter, it transcends period. And when you're telling a great story about great characters, it proves that you can make anybody enjoy anything if you've got a great story and great characters and great people to bring it forth. It's beautifully made. I love everything about this show.
It's funny because when it was starting to win, like literally all the Emmys, when it was sweeping up and winning all the Emmys, people going, what the hell is Marvelous Mrs. Maisel? I'm like, you gotta see it. It's so good. Anyway, thanks for bringing that up, man. All right, next up, Jake C. writes, I was 3 when my favorite movie came out, so seeing The Matrix in theaters for the first time was truly remarkable. We may not get the opportunity again. Again, we've been hearing from a lot of you guys all week about a lot of you having the chance to go there. My buddy Soul went to go see it, said it's a great experience. I haven't had the chance to do it yet myself, but it's always wonderful when you got a movie that's one of your all-time favorites and you get the chance to see it the way it's really meant to be seen, which is on a big screen in a movie theater with an audience. That is awesome, Jake, and I'm glad you, as it being your favorite movie, I'm glad you had the opportunity to experience it that way, brother. All right, Taki75 writes, regarding Birth of a Nation, no, Rob, I am not a film student. I'm just a grown-up who can appreciate a movie's artistic merits while rejecting its vile politics. Yeah, I mean, that's a movie that comes up a lot and in a lot of different things, Birth of a Nation, and obviously, like, message of a movie. But it's recognized, because when did it come out? Like 19... like the early
20s or 30s.
It might have even been like wasn't
earlier,
even earlier than that, like
earlier,
1917. But it's pretty much acknowledged being from the filmmaking art point of view. It was so far ahead of its time, and all that kind of stuff. And I like the comment. I like what Taki just said. Like I can recognize the great art of filmmaking without recognize the vileness of the message and what might have been in it. It sounds like you were having a conversation with Taki about that.
Well, I've talked a lot about like what movies should be made on my own YouTube show. On Robservations, I've been getting into this subject matter a lot lately, and I think, look, it was a different time. It was over 100 years ago, and the fact is, America did and still does have a lot of vile politics, and people are treated in a vile way. And the birth of the Ku Klux Klan was a part of our nation's history. And it's interesting that we now are going to go pillory something that was made 100 years ago and not look at it as a discussion point and go, well, isn't it great that we're not there yet? But as you pointed out, we're not there anymore. But at the same time, we go back and go, this is a part of our history, and we should confront it head on. And recently Lillian Gish, who was in that film on a college campus, people were condemning her for being in that movie. And how could she know how politics and life was going to change in 100 years?
I often catch myself, Rob, wondering I wonder what things I just consider normal right now that 30 years from now I might look back and go, oh my God, how did I hold that? How did I think that? How did I treat something? Like, you just never know when you're in the moment.
No, and also, look, human beings, I've always said, our record of treating one another well over the course of the last thousands of years of human history, it's not a great record, John. And you go back far enough, everybody from the first, look at 2001. The alien monolith comes down, instills the idea of using tools in the minds of early men. And what's the first thing they do? They go kill other early men to take over that watering hole. Even when extraterrestrial intelligence bequeaths knowledge on us, the first thing we do is club each other over the head.
All right, we got to move on here. It's a great point. Curtis Lopez writes, I agree with you on It Chapter 2. It's a step down from the first. A lot of the acting and storylines were melodramatic, and the third act was cheesy. I like the performances. I do got to say, I like the performances in the film, particularly Bill Hader. Why do I always forget, or I freeze on her name? I always forget, Jessica Chastain. She's great in it. Bill Hader's great in it. I agree. It's just, to me, a lot of it was just a step down from what the first one was. Curtis also writes, Harder was great, though. Movie could have been better. It absolutely could have been better and could have been a lot shorter, too. Anyway, Curtis follows up, one of two. Obi-Wan, Yoda. Yoda, ask me if I'll use the high ground to defeat Anakin. Yoda, to defeat Anakin, use the high ground you will? Obi-Wan turns to camera. Yes. Now, what that's a reference to is one of, if not the best moment at D23 this year. It was during the Disney Plus presentation. Kathleen Kennedy's on stage, and she makes the official announcement the Obi-Wan series is coming, and Ewan McGregor is back, and she introduces Ewan McGregor to come out on stage. McGregor comes out on stage, and he says to Kathleen, Kathy. She goes, yes, Ewan? He says, ask me if I'm coming back to play Obi-Wan. And everybody in the audience is going, he goes, Ewan, are you going to play Obi-Wan again? He holds the mic to his mouth, turns to the audience. Yes. And the audience goes wild. And it was a great moment, Rob. Seriously, there's a lot of moments that I wish you could have been there for that, Rob, because it was a marvelous.
Although I did watch the video and I loved it.
It was great. It was so good.
You know what? It's just a great move. And again, dude, we're getting an Obi-Wan Kenobi series.
With Ewan McGregor.
Like, what's not to love about life?
Very, very excited about it.
Cue people going, The Last Jedi.
All right. Next up, Willow Yang writes, I'm leaving this month for a 3-day work retreat on the Sunshine Coast. Hope to see some whales. Have you ever been there? What is the Sunshine Coast? Is that a specific place?
Is that us?
Or is that just California?
Is that Florida?
Sorry, Willow. I don't know what the Sunshine Coast is.
Willow Yang is coming to California and she's not going to stop by. Say hello. I'll be very disappointed.
I have been out on, I've gone out and gone whale watching and stuff like that. I've never done it in California per se, but I've gone out and gone whale watching. But I don't know if this is the Sunshine Coast or if that's something else. Anyway, Nathan Oswald writes, my top 5 favorite bands. Number 5, Aerosmith. Number 4, Van Halen. Number 3, Duran Duran. A lot of people forget Duran Duran had some great stuff. Number 2, Journey. Number 1, the Bee Gees. Really, honestly, it's not that I'm surprised because I don't think the Bee Gees are good. It's just when I read the other bands on your list, I wasn't expecting to see Bee Gees as number 1. That's an interesting, eclectic kind of combination.
I gotta say though, the Bee Gees, a lot of people just think of them as Saturday Night Fever and disco. They have a lot of great songs. Nights on Broadway is one of my favorite songs of all time. They're and a great
Gibb just
band.
had a birthday, I think, last week. I think it was.
Yeah, he's the last one.
Yeah.
I think Barry's the last remaining Gibb.
All right, next up, Willow Yang writes, besides Picard, who's your favorite character from The Next Generation? I love Data. I got to say Worf. I just love the Worf character because they started Worf out just kind of Klingon, blah, blah, blah. But they started giving him interesting storylines and emotional depth and a lot of things, especially when they started bringing in his human parents and then his own son. I think his son's name was Alexander, wasn't it? And they started doing some really cool things with them, so much so that when Deep Space Nine was having a little bit of trouble really getting to that next level, they decided, well, let's bring the Worf character in. So I got to say Worf. What about you?
I really like Worf, but my favorite Next Generation characters, it's Picard. It's so obvious that to me it's Picard. But one of my favorite Next Generation characters is a character that was only in 2 episodes. Edward Jellicoe, Captain Jellicoe, who takes command of the Enterprise in Season 6 in Chain of Command 1 and 2. It's my favorite Next Generation 2-parter. I think Ronnie Cox is still alive. They should bring it back for the Picard series. I love him.
All right, let's move on here. Curtis Lopez writes, the third act to It 2 felt more like the climax to a Disney fairy tale than an R-rated adult horror movie. Again, look, and we're not going to go into it. I was really unsatisfied with the climax of it. Again, not the very ending when they wrap up the character stories, but with the climax of it, I was very unsatisfied with it. And once you guys see the movie, you'll know what I'm talking about. Tom Wyenberg writes, saw Manchester by the Sea last night with my brother. Ooh, that's a good movie to watch with your brother. Which made it extra emotional. Wow, haven't seen a film this human since 2015's Room, maybe. You know, one of the unfortunate things is that when you talk about Manchester by the Sea these days, it's overshadowed a lot now by the Casey Affleck controversy and stuff like that. But that movie is brilliant. Absolutely. Wasn't Michelle Williams, didn't she she got an Academy Award nomination for that, didn't she?
I think she did. I think she might have. She was great in it too. She wasn't in it enough though. I love me some Michelle Williams.
Well, yeah, she had her role was relatively small. I got to look that up now because this is going to bother me unless I check this out. Okay, so she has been nominated for. She's been nominated 4 times, never won. Michelle Williams was nominated for Brokeback Mountain, didn't win. Nominated for Blue Valentine, so good in Blue Valentine. Nominated for My Week with Marilyn, which a lot of people thought she was going to win that year. And then, yes, she was nominated for Best Supporting Actress in 2016. Film Manchester by the Sea. So yeah, she was nominated for that. That's a great one to watch with your brother. I mean, that's a great one. Also, very heart-wrenching at the same time. Let's see. That was Tom. James Wheeler sends in a really big super chat. Thank you for supporting the channel on that level, man. We appreciate that. James writes, on Wednesday night, I finally got to see Lawrence of Arabia in the movie theater. Truly an amazing experience. One of the greatest achievements in cinematography, I think. And so just to look at Lawrence of Arabia is an experience. Yeah. Just watching how it's shot at that time, it's one of my top 10 favorite movies in the history of movies. And again, one of those movies that was completely designed specifically to watch on the big screen. Now, it was available out here. I didn't have a chance to go out and watch again, which really, really sucks. But if you got to pick one of the classics to go watch on the big screen, that's the one. That and Bridge on the River Kwai. That's another really good one that's like from a cinematography point of view is scored. But Lawrence of Arabia, dude. Did you ever have a chance? I have still never seen Lawrence of Arabia on the big screen.
Oh, I've seen it actually many times on the big screen because, growing up, they used to have a 70mm film festival in Seattle every year. And it's just an astonishing achievement. And if you love cinema... Apocalypse Now was out in movie theaters last week for Final Cut. And I've had so many people, because I was a big advocate of going out and seeing it, I've had so many people write me and contact me and say, my God, I went and saw it and you were so right, because there's nothing like there's no CG in these movies, these big vistas. I mean, all the extras, the battle scenes, go see it.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's awesome that you had a chance to do that, man. All right. Dan Ketchum writes, so Stark is already coming back. Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
What he's talking about is that there's a story going around that he's going to come back because they're saying that Disney Plus is doing an Ironheart series and blah, blah, blah. All I'm going to say is that possible? It's possible, I suppose. But going back to what we were talking about earlier in the show, that story comes from We Got This Covered, which I will not address. So I wouldn't even think about it right now. Doesn't mean it's impossible. But and you know me, I think Tony Stark is coming back at some point. But if the story's coming from We Got This Covered, it's not worth talking about at this point. Fuzzy FJ writes, John, I have an idea. No need for CGI when Aaron Cummings can play the She-Hulk. Just get someone on set to say something bad about John Campea, and away you go. Hey, I'm down for that, for Aaron playing that. Which reminds me, look, two things about Aaron. Her new CBS series, All Rise, starts in just a couple weeks. So we're going to encourage everybody to have a big viewing party. I think I'll probably live stream me watching it. I'll probably, you know what? I might host a live on-stream thing where we can all watch it together and chat online. I mean, she doesn't have a huge role in the show. It's a supporting role in the show, for sure. But and then she had this, we can't talk about what it is, but she had a big, major audition at one of the studios yesterday.
Fight Club 2? Just kidding.
That we can't talk about, but she's got some things moving and shaking, Fuzzy. She's got some things moving and shaking. I hope that one works out for her. Anyway, Jupiter Sky writes, big fan of your show. Thank you, Jupiter. A long-time watcher, first-time super chatter. Well, thank you for contributing to the show like that, Jupiter. Appreciate it. Celebrating 5-year wedding anniversary today with my beautiful wife. Did you put in another part? No. Okay, okay. Well, listen. Happy anniversary to you and your wife in a day and age when marriages fall apart as quickly, as iPhones do. It's amazing. To hit a 5-year anniversary is no small feat, my friend. I hope you and your lovely bride have a fantastic weekend ahead of yourselves. And here's to another 5 and then many, many more after that, Jupiter.
See, I want to know, because it's Friday, are they going to go to a movie this weekend? Like, to celebrate their anniversary, like dinner and a movie? Are they going to do the John Campea thing and reverse those? Do you go to the movie and then dinner?
But you know what? Here's the thing, though.
Like, I don't know.
When you're already in a relationship, you can do dinner then movie.
That's true.
When you're already in. It's the first date. First dates, you got to do dinner, movie, then dinner.
But I think it's a good idea to always do that.
It's not a bad
because
idea.
You go to the movies and then you talk about. I mean, it's the best. I love going out and talking about a movie after I saw it. I did it last weekend with my good friend Dave Hargrove. We went and saw the director's cut of Midsommar. And we went to the Well and had a few drinks, and we spent 2 hours dissecting the film, And I love that. I hope they do that.
It is the better way to do it. It is the better way to do it.
What movie do you take your wife to for their 5th anniversary?
Depends what's playing, I guess. It's not like you can just pick out any movie in history. You got to kind of weigh it against.
It marathon?
It depends if she's into horror. If she's into horror, you can do that.
5 years after marriage, I'd say she is.
She very well may be. All right, JB Bonifacio writes, I'll take the Pepsi challenge with season 1 of The Flash over any superhero show's season. One backed by a strong cast, amazing action, and some genuine cry time. Flash season 1 started at a 10 and ended at an 11. I will disagree with you, JB, about it being the best single episode of things ever. I think an argument can be made for Daredevil season 3. I think there's a number of other things. Maybe Heroes season 1. Heroes season 1 is a big one. But where I will be in complete agreement with you, JB, is that first season of Flash was really good.
Really good.
And considered to be, and it had to be, because I think it had a lot of doubters. I admittedly was one of them. And it just got us all on board. And it was a really solid season. Definitely one of the best seasons in CW. That's for sure. I don't know if I'd put it on scale with season 1 of Umbrella Academy or The Boys or Doom Patrol or things like that, but it's really good. How would you rank it, Rob?
I think it's really good too. And what's great about the first season of The Flash is it came out of the gate knowing exactly the kind of show it wanted to be.
Yeah.
It didn't have to we're going to see what works. They really had a handle on the tone and the feel, and they really embraced the character and its mythology. I mean, it's not exact, but they as a distillation of the mythology of the Flash character over the years, I thought they did a wonderful job. And JB is absolutely right. Flash season 1 is a terrific achievement. And remember, was it before Arrow?
No, it was a spinoff from Arrow.
Yeah, the Arrow spinoff.
They introduced the Barry Allen character on Arrow.
I think both of those shows, the first season of Arrow and the first season of Flash, were very, very strong. Really, really thought that, and it also that planted the flag as far as superhero shows on TV was concerned. I mean, I think that like the X-Men did for movies, I think Arrow and the Flash really did it for superheroes on TV.
And they're very different types of superhero shows than like The Boys and Umbrella Academy and Doom. But I think they're terrific. They were. when I talk about it. I love the first 2 seasons of Arrow, man. I just love that so much.
Yeah.
All right. Fuzzy FJ writes, top 5 movies. Inside Out. I love Inside Out. Dangerous Minds, great movie. Friday, Life of Pi, and Castaway.
That's an eclectic list.
That is a really eclectic list.
I like that.
Again, none of those in my top 5, but a huge mad respect for that list, man. Castaway is a movie, Rob, I don't think enough people talk about. I seriously feel that way. It's so good.
Dude, every time that movie's on HBO or it passes the HBO test, you can't stop watching it. And that movie is so compelling. I totally agree with you. And it has a killer ending.
Oh, the ending's so
ending
good.
gets me every time. I'm like, oh, man.
Well, there's really 2 endings to it. There's the one ending that I quote all the time, that whenever I hear about somebody who's been in my life that unfortunately takes their own life, I'm reminded all the time. I think it should be a scene that's played in public schools, where Tom Hanks is sitting in the hotel talking to his friend, and he's back home now, and he's like talking about how he really thought many times about taking his own life, and he just said, I just said to myself, keep breathing, because you never know what the tide brings in tomorrow. Like, life changes overnight.
Yeah.
Life can change overnight. Sometimes for the worse, sometimes for the better. Like, you just never know. And I love it. But then there's the other ending where it's like he's delivering that box and he comes to the crossroads and it's like, oh my God, there's so much just in that frame. There's so much there to unpack, right? Anyway, all right, let's move on here. Next one up comes to us from The Sock, who writes, over under almost nothing. John watches The Highlander 2 again and changes his mind about it and says it's great. You know what? I have tried in my life to watch The Highlander 2 again. I think there were 2 other occasions.
Have you watched the Renegade cut?
I did see the Renegade cut. There are 2 separate occasions I have gone back to watch the Highlander, and it usually is precipitated by watching the original Highlander again. Because I watched the original Highlander again. This movie's so awesome! I'll give the second one a try again. But yeah, it's
rough, dude.
Never gonna happen. Never gonna happen, unfortunately. Pablo Diablo writes, every time you sign off bye-bye, I always think you're about to say Bob Iger. Until next time, Bob Iger. Looking forward to Tomb Raider 2. Thanks for everything you do. I am looking forward to Tomb Raider 2. You know, they announced, we talked about it on the show the other day, they announced that they're doing a sequel to the Alicia Vikander, something I didn't think they would do because it didn't make a lot of money. But honestly, and this isn't saying much, I thought that first Tomb Raider movie is not my favorite video game movie adaptation, but I think it's probably the best video game movie adaptation we've ever had. It's not a great movie,
right?
But it's pretty good, and that's about as good as you can say about video game movie adaptations. So I'll tell you what, I like her in the role. I thought the action was really good. I thought she was a good match for the character. Yes, I am looking forward to a sequel. Rob, you?
Yeah, you know, again, anytime anyone makes a good movie, and that's fantasy-based or video game-based, again, I go into everything wanting to love it. I really like her as a performer. I thought she did a great job in the first Tomb Raider movie. And, you know, again, the whole Tomb Raider basically came out of that whole, let's do Indiana Jones with a girl, you know, that whole vibe. And, and I think there's nothing wrong with that if it's well done, and I think that movie's pretty good. So why not make another? I still also want to see a great Uncharted movie. Then again, I'm waiting for a Devil May Cry movie that I'm probably never going to get. But
well, we're supposed to be getting a Tom Holland version of Uncharted, so
I don't know. I just don't buy him as Nathan Drake.
We'll see. I mean, look, when you play I think it's the 4th one, Thieves End, I think that's what it's called, and they do the younger flashbacks.
Right.
I mean, that's pretty much Tom Holland, but it depends on which way they want to go. The one good thing you can say about that, though, is that if it works, you've got your Nathan Drake for the next 10 years.
Right.
I mean, so if it works. Let's see. I can't think of a good username, right? It says, that Mysterio hot toy, Rob. They've got a Mysterio hot toy?
Bro, you know what? Here's the thing. Yes, it looks cool, but as far as I know from the pictures I've seen, there is no Jake Gyllenhaal head sculpt.
It's just the fishbowl?
It's just the fishbowl. And I'm like, I loved the way he looked without the fishbowl on. Now, I understand the fishbowl is the classical comic book iteration.
But all the hot toys will give you multiple heads.
Well, not like the Killmonger hot toys doesn't come with a
Michael B. Jordan face?
Jordan. And you know, I understand because you don't have to get likeness approval. You can get that. You can get that out. But I got to tell you, Like, I love my Black Panther Hot Toys figure because I got my Chad Boseman face on, and he's holding his mask right next to the throne of Wakanda, where Shuri, when I get it, Shuri's going to be sitting in the throne of Wakanda just for fun, and Black Panther's going to be leaning. I like my head sculpts, man.
I'll tell you what, if it doesn't have the actor's likeness, I'm not interested.
I know, man.
Not interested.
I love Mysterio, but I want to see my Gyllenhaal. I love the way Gyllenhaal looks.
Yeah, he looks great in that. All right, let's see. I can't think of a good username. Writes up and says, I have seen R.I.P. Marvel from DC fans because Joker has good reviews. I will look. This is one of the stupider things that, look, let's be honest. It ain't just DC fans and it ain't just Marvel fans. It's both of them, right? Like, a great trailer for... I don't know what it was. Like, I remember when the first great trailer for Justice League or Batman versus Superman was awesome. And as soon as it did, yep, all the DC fans, R.I.P. Marvel, bye-bye, like, you're dead now. And obviously that never happened. And I've seen it go the other way too. I've seen like a great Marvel movie. It's like, oh, DC's buried and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, guys, come on. First of all, it's just trailers. Number two, you think that you finally do a good movie, that means the other place is going to lose fans, whichever side you're on? Don't be idiotic. I mean, it's just one of the more idiotic things that and let's face it, and I count myself in this too, we as fans can be pretty idiotic sometimes. But that is one of the more idiotic things people do.
I don't understand, like, seriously, what does a Joker movie have to do with the MCU? Other than the fact that their subject matter are both comic book derived? That would be going, I just hope that the adaptation of Tom Clancy's Hunt for Red October, isn't as good as the next Alex Cross movie, because they both are derived from novels. It's so weird. Don't you just want to see good movies?
Yep. Yeah, and that's what it comes down to. All right. Rasmus writes, hey guys, have you seen the documentary, I always mispronounce it, Jodorowsky's Dune, about the Dune film that could have been? I found it mesmerizing. Thoughts on the new Dune? Well, I was actually introduced to it by John Schnepp. Schnepp was actually the first one to introduce me to that, and it is fascinating. It's absolutely fascinating. Thoughts on the new Dune? Look, you got an incredible filmmaker behind it, Denis Villeneuve. Very, very excited about it. Might be the greatest movie ever. Might be the worst film ever. We won't know, but for right now, I'm pretty excited about it. Rob, did you see that documentary?
Oh, I love that. I love Alejandro Jodorowsky. I mean, I love The Holy Mountain, and I loved El Topo. El Topo was one of those movies growing up. I'm like, how can you get this on video? And, his Dune movie was so mythical. Everyone's like, what if it ever got made? And I love that film. I love him. He's just crazy and insane, and in the best way. I love that documentary.
It's really good. And listen, with that being said, we've gone over an hour and a half now. Rob has got to take his leave. He's got other things he's got to be doing today. Rob, as always, it's awesome having you here. Where can people find you online?
People can find me online on Twitter at BurnettRM, find me on Instagram at RMBurnett, or find me on my own YouTube channel, The Burnett Work. I'll be on it for 3 hours today. And its adjacent website, theburnettwork.net.
And we will see you back here on Monday.
Yes, sir.
All right, have a great weekend, Rob. All right, guys, you and I now are going to continue on with the live questions. We got another about half hour or so let's keep things rolling here. Chris Feldman writes, top 5 movies I had zero interest in at first, then happened to see and now love. Oh, Brother, Where Art Thou? I love that movie. Up in the Air, fabulous George Clooney movie. John Wick, yep, it's another throwaway. Everybody forgets that now. Like, we're in the Keanu-sance, but everybody forgets when John Wick was coming out, nobody really gave it much stock. It's like, because he wasn't doing great stuff at that time. Now we all love it. Her, absolutely. And Sling Blade, Sling Blade. A lot of people haven't seen Sling Blade. If you haven't, checked it out. That's a solid list, Chris. I like that list. Well done. All right. Let's see. Man Drop writes, top 10, I guess. Number 10, Ben-Hur. Love the original Ben-Hur in my top 10 list. Number 9, Monsters, Inc. Number 8, Planet of the Apes. Number 7, Incredibles. Number 6, The Aviator. Number 5, V for Vendetta. Number 4, Return of the King. Number 3, Spaceballs. I love it. Number 2, The Last Samurai. Last Samurai is great. And number 1, The Matrix. So you got to be really happy right now, Man Drop, with the fact that we got Matrix back in theaters right now. Again, not everything on this list will be on my list, but again, I love these lists because they're a testimony to the greatness of the art of filmmaking, that we can have all these people sending all these lists and hardly any of them are alike, and yet they're all amazing movies and great, and it really speaks to the subjective nature of art and film and how it strikes us all in different ways, and we have different appreciation levels for it, and I love that. All right, thanks for sharing, Man Drop. All right, Chris Feldman writes, Do you think the percentage of MCU TV shows on Disney Plus that are great will be the same as the percentage of the MCU movies that are great? It's impossible to say. It's impossible to say at this point. Look, this is a new kind of endeavor for them. You know, doing 6-part episodic storytelling on a streaming network as opposed to a theatrical release film. They say that they're taking the exact same approach with these Disney Plus series as they are with their MCU theatrical films. That's why Kevin Feige has direct oversight and control over them. They're saying they're giving them similar budgets. So it's one thing to say that, though, but it's another thing to see how it actually plays out in a practical way. Again, this is something they've never done. This is something the MCU has never done before. So it's going to be interesting to see. Look, I'm not going to bet against Kevin Feige. That's just it. We should all know that by this point. Don't bet against Kevin Feige. Will everything they put on Disney Plus be great? No, the law of averages says it won't be. But will the vast majority of them? I will put my money on Kevin Feige, but understand this is a new thing for them that they're doing. They can say all they want to say about how we're going to take the same approach and blah, blah, blah. That sounds good, but it might play out a little bit differently when it comes to practical terms. So let's wait and see. If I had to guess, though, right now, put your money on Kevin Feige every time. But we'll have to wait and see. We'll have to wait and see. All right. Ryan Lohner writes, prepare for riots in the streets from the confused masses. There's now a Deathstroke in Titans as well as the movies. Is there a Deathstroke in the movies? I mean, I know Joe popped up for a split second as Deathstroke, but I mean, I think even half the people who saw Justice League probably didn't even know that was Deathstroke. So I don't know. We'll have to see. But listen, if they can talk about having Flash on TV and Flash in the movies, I think it's fine. See, this is part of the brilliance of the notion of keeping your television universe and your movie universe completely separate. The Disney Plus thing is a different breed of thing. That's a totally different situation. But keeping your television universe and your movies universe completely separate is brilliant because you can tell a certain type of Flash story with a certain type of Flash on TV and then do a completely different Flash in the movies and have them in their own isolated things. And it can be great. It might not be great if this Flash movie ever even happens. I'm not as stoked about it after watching it Chapter 2, but regardless, that's part of the genius of it. So, first of all, I'm not even sure they're going to be using Deathstroke in the movies all that much, but even if they do, I think everybody will be fine, Ryan. I think people will say at first, it'll be too confusing, and then we'll realize, oh, actually, it's not all that confusing, and I think everybody will be okay. And I think that's probably what you're alluding to anyway. All right, Chris Feldman writes, I'm finally getting caught up on last year's Oscar nominees. Watched Can You Ever Forgive Me? So good. So good. See, last night, they have multiple Academy Award nominations. I see why Melissa McCarthy was nominated A+. And look, I get it. A lot of people never saw Can You Ever Forgive Me? But they saw it nominated for an Academy Award for Best Actress, Melissa McCarthy? Really? But then you see the movie and you go, holy crap. I totally get why she got nominated for that. It totally makes sense now. But no, that caught a lot of people off guard. It absolutely caught a lot of people off guard when she got that nomination. Understandably so, because you wouldn't think of her in those terms. But yeah, she totally deserved that nomination. She really did. It's a great movie, and good on you for getting caught up on those nominees lists, Chris. All right, Jesse writes, hey, John and Rob, been getting more into collecting lately, and yesterday I got my Marvel Legends Captain America shield. Nice. And it's so awesome. Also, I think it's made by Hasbro, so be sure to thank Anne for me. Oh, they do make one. Oh, I know this. She's already got one for a friend of mine. You know, it's funny, and this is true. I'll get texts from Anne all the time during the workday, and she'll send me a picture of something. Not top secret stuff, just stuff that they have, just stuff that Hasbro makes. And because, you know, she gets some stuff for free, some stuff she gets for a big discount because she's a person over at Hasbro. And she'll often send me stuff and say, hey, do you want me to bring this home? But I often actually have to say no, because I literally have no place to put anything. I've got no place to put anything. And like, what I don't want to have happen is her to bring something home for me that just ends up in the garage, you know? But I literally have no place anymore to start displaying stuff. She won't let me display my crap in the living room, which is fine. We keep our living room neutral. I get to have my office in here. I even get to display some stuff in the bedroom. But in the living room, not so much. Although I take that back. We do have a couple of pieces down in the living room. So I take that back a little bit. But I don't really have a lot of space, which really sucks. So something like the Shield, I can't get that because I literally have nowhere to put it. But there's a lot of, but every once in a while she'll send me something like one of the Black Series things. I'm like, okay, yeah, please bring me that home, please. Thank you so much. But yeah, there's a lot of stuff I don't have place for. So it's hard collecting when I don't have a lot of place. Like even my Pops, right? I love my Pops. I mean, you can't even see half of them here, but you know, I love my Pops, but the vast majority of my Pops are just in boxes in the garage because I got nowhere to display them. I only got so much room in here. But it's the struggle is real for hashtag first world problems, for sure. But anyway, I'm glad you're getting into it, man, and I'm glad you got something you love, Jesse. All right, next up, the Sock writes, my top 10 movies: Spider-Man 2, nice. Hook. Good on you for being one of the Hook supporters. Empire Strikes Back, Starship Troopers. You know what to do. The Thing, The Gift. The Gift is really good. I haven't seen that on anybody's list yet. The Deer Hunter, nice. The Children Who Chase Lost Voices, Temple of Doom, and Scott Pilgrim versus the World, the good Canadian-based property there. Again, super eclectic list there, Sock. Super eclectic list. Like, I love the fact that we've got a top 10 list here that's got Deer Hunter on it and has Hook on it and Spider-Man 2. A list that's got The Thing and Scott Pilgrim versus the World on the same list. That's amazing. I love it. That's why movies are awesome, Sock. That's why they're awesome. Thanks for the list, dude. I love your list. Absolutely love your list. All right. KW Garrett 83 writes, my top 10 faves. Number 1, Shawshank. Absolutely. Number 2, Rocky, the 1976 version. Number 3, Raiders of the Lost Ark. Number 4, Annie Hall. Annie Hall, the movie that beat out Star Wars for Best Picture at the Academy Awards. But I'll tell you what, whatever is going on with Woody Allen, you think about Woody Allen and all that kind of stuff. Annie Hall not only is a stupidly good comedy, not a lot of comedy holds up decades later. Annie Hall holds up. It is hilarious. Anyway, Airplane, the best of all the spoof movies. Casablanca, Field of Dreams, Back to the Future, The Departed, I love The Departed, and Sneakers, Robert Redford, love that. Dan Aykroyd, Ben Kingsley, with an appearance by James Earl Jones at the end. River Phoenix, love Sneakers. Sneakers is so good. I like your list, KW. All right, Sock follows up and writes, speaking of Hook, I've been obsessed with Peter Pan since I was young to levels I'm embarrassed to admit, and I can't explain it. Do you have anything like that for you besides Star Wars? With the Peter Pan thing, when you go, look, there have been books written about the psychology of Peter Pan and all the different things that Peter Pan represents, including, you know, things that adult issues that we struggle with and think about. And so that's great. For me, the character I am most obsessed with is a minor character in a book and in a movie, and it's the character of Boromir in Lord of the Rings, played by Sean Bean. I have been fascinated and obsessed with that character ever since I was a kid and I first read Lord of the Rings. And the reason being is there's something about, to me, you know how I've talked recently about the things that make me cry in movies isn't romance or sad things, but overt, over-the-top, extreme examples of loyalty and friendship. Those are things that get me emotional. But one of my favorite thematic elements of storytelling, whether it's television, movies, books, or whatever, for me personally, and it's always been this, has been the concept of redemption. The concept of redemption has always been something that has profoundly appealed to me. And I'm not really 100% sure why. It might be because since I was a kid, I've realized we're all assholes. We're all idiots and we're all jerks and we all do stupid things. Every single one of us. And the notion of a human concept like redemption, something that gives us another chance, that for us as people, it's never too late. The notion that even when we make a wrong decision, we have the opportunity to follow it up with a right decision. That is a concept to me, maybe because I'm so keenly aware that I'm somebody who needs that as an individual person, I know I make bad decisions and I know I make bad choices. And the concept that there's still hope because I can follow up a bad choice by making a right choice. I can follow up maybe an unkind word that I speak with a kind word. That maybe I can make a mistake in a relationship and I have the opportunity to follow that up to make it right. That notion of redemption, I think, is so important to the human experience. And maybe that's why that's been, and to me, there's never been a better example in whether it's in literature or in movies, particularly in fiction. There's never been a better example of that in fiction to me than Boromir. A guy who was seduced by the desires of the ring to do terrible things, but he makes his last stand dying, fighting to the death to defend the hobbits. And there's something about that moves me. It absolutely moves me. And it was the thing I was most excited about. When they said they were making a Lord of the Rings movie, it was that scene that I was looking forward to. That's all I ever thought about. And going into the movie, the first time I watched The Fellowship of the Ring, it was just counting down. I knew every line. I was like, okay, we're getting close to the point. They better not fail to make Boromir fall, and they better not fail to give him that redemption moment. And it's that moment that I was looking forward to seeing so much. So anyway, so that's a very long-winded way of answering questions. Say the thing I've always been obsessed with, besides the overall story of Star Wars and stuff like that, is the character of Boromir in Lord of the Rings and what he represents thematically as the human experience of redemption. And I love it. I love it. And I'm always fascinated with that theme, and I'm always fascinated when it pops up in anything else, and a lot has to do with Boromir. Anyway, sorry, spent a lot of time talking about that. I'll move on, but thank you for the question, Sock. All right. KW Garrett writes, old screwball comedies I really enjoy rewatching that most people have forgotten are Seems Like Old Times, What's Up, Doc, and Love and Death. I've never seen Love and Death. Hold on a second. Or maybe this is one of those situations where, yes, John, you have, but I don't think I have. Let me pull it up. Love and Death, another Woody Allen, Diane Keaton. Oh, it's another Woody and Diane Keaton one. I have not seen this one. Nope, I haven't seen this one. So, yeah, intriguing. That is one I am unfamiliar with. And I didn't even realize it wouldn't. Speaking of Annie Hall, I wasn't even aware. There you go. That's crazy. You put one on my radar, KW. Thank you for that. All right. Nicholas Zolezi writes, can we get 20 seconds round of Chris's different voices? Well, unfortunately, Chris is not here right now. And I'm sure on she's probably done something like that on Nerdwire. I'm sure she probably has. And if she was here right now, maybe she would. Aaron Moen writes, so John, why do you hate Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. so much? Because it sucks. It surely can't be the writing. The writing is horrible on it. Or character development. Character development is terrible in it. Can it? It's so good. Help me understand. No, it's just awful. It's just an awful, awful show. Now, that's not to say that you should think it's awful, nor that anybody who loves it shouldn't love it. But you know me. I love Clark Gregg. I love the Agent Coulson character. I love the MCU. I was 100% cheering for this show. But it's been an unwatchable bag of shit from the very beginning. Now, they've had some good episodes. They've had some exceptional episodes, actually. I think it was their 100th episode that I particularly liked. And they've had some interesting concepts and stuff like that, but I just found it to be drivel storytelling, drivel writing, drivel dialogue, terrible things they've done with all their characters. Look, you know me, I'm an MCU fan. I want to like it. I wanted to like it. I'm predisposed to liking it, but I gotta call it like I see it. It's garbage. Clark Gregg is great in it. I will always be a big Clark Gregg fan, no matter what. And I love the Agent Coulson character. I really like Ming-Na too. But It's just a horrible, horrible show. And I'm pretty sure Disney does this. I'm pretty sure they have done this to me on purpose, because they haven't done it the last 1 or 2 premieres I've been to. But a lot of times when I go to the Disney premieres, 9 times out of 10, they seat me right in the middle of the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. cast. And I am almost positive they do it on purpose. I am almost positive they do it on purpose. But and you know me, I'm not a Marvel hater. I'm not an MCU hater by any stretch of the imagination. It's just I got to call it as I see it. I wanted to like the show, but I didn't. And I just don't think they do anything right. And it pains me to say it. It pains me to say it because I want to like that stuff. Anyway, but again, just because I feel that way doesn't mean you need to feel that way. And me not liking something you like does not undermine or discredit the fact that you like it. Not at all. But I got to be honest, man, and I just got to call like I see it. And I just think the show is utter garbage. Anyway, but that's just me. Anyway, I can't think of a good username rights. The buzz for The Rise of Skywalker isn't as high as previous Star Wars films. Well, right now, there's a couple things to keep in mind. I mean, that's a no-duh. There's a couple things to keep in mind. Number one is that we're still many months away from the movie. Number two, we just finished up the summer movie season where a lot of attention is on other things. But the number 3 thing is, of course, we're coming off the most divisive, and I say divisive. People dislike the prequels more, but just everybody hated the prequels. But we're coming off a very divisive film in The Last Jedi. I like The Last Jedi. I think it has its problems. I think it's the least good of the new round of Star Wars films, but I like it. For what there's certain things in it that I think they did really well. Some things they didn't do so well. But it's a very divisive film. Whenever you're coming off of a really divisive film like that, you can't expect there to be as much buzz as there was before. If Mandalorian comes out on November 12th and is as fantastic as we're hoping it will be, then I think you're going to see a skyrocket for that. Also, let's wait to see the real trailer, the next real trailer for Star Wars. That could change things around a lot. Then the critic reviews start to come out. Are they great? Are they bad? I mean, there's a lot of things that go into it right now, but yeah, it's not a profound observation. I mean, we're coming off of the most divisive film in the history of Star Wars. Clearly, there's not going to be as much buzz going into this one then as there was in previous ones. Can it win that buzz back? That's what we'll have to wait and see, but we're not there yet. It's too early to tell. So we got a couple of major milestones to get to. Maybe it'll hit its stride, maybe it won't, but we'll have to wait and see. All right, James Lockman writes, John, here's a couple of PS4 recommendations. Batman Arkham Asylum and Infamous Second Son. Both have great stories, and the gameplay is great. With Batman, you get to unlock cool gadgets for his utility belt. Yeah, I've given a little bit of a shot to the Arkham stuff. Let's put it this way. I was more of a fan of watching the Arkham cutscene movies than I was actually playing it, but that was just me. That one, Infamous Second Son, I've not heard of that one, so that might be one I have to put on my list. And I wrote it down. I can't remember what the name of the game was that everybody said I needed to try, and I wrote it down. I don't have it in front of me. I can't remember off the top of my head, but I still got to give that one a try, and I will give it a try, and maybe I'll keep my PS4 Pro. Maybe I'll get rid of it, but we'll find out soon enough. But thank you for the recommendation, James. I appreciate that, brother. All right. Chris Feldman writes, when you made your movie, what role did you enjoy more, writing or directing? If you did another movie, would you still like to do both roles? No. One of the things I promised myself after writing, directing, and producing my movie was I'm never going to do that again. I'm never going to do all 3 again. No way. To be honest with you, the part you didn't mention, Chris, was producing. I really enjoyed the producing part more. I really enjoyed producing. That's what I really like doing. And the writing was a lot of fun too. I enjoyed directing. I did. But I found that was the part that I enjoyed the least. I enjoyed it, but I enjoyed it the least. So in order of the 3 things for me personally, this will be different from person to person. I'd say I enjoyed the producing part of it the most, actually pulling it all together and making it all happen. That's the part that I enjoyed the most. You know, one of my favorite things that I did at my previous gig was this show we did called Awesome-tacular. that had Jeremy on it, right? And we did that for the Verizon Go 90 network. It's a show that Verizon Go 90 paid us a lot of money to make. And I very intentionally did not put myself in the show. I thought it was important for me not to put myself in the show. And I really just wanted to be the producer of the show. And it was one of the most enjoyable experiences I had over there, to be honest with you, was producing that show. I really had a lot of fun producing it. I think it's something I'm particularly good at. Not a lot in life I'm particularly good at, but I think that was one of the things I was particularly good at, and I really, really enjoyed it. When you look at the Lionsgate show that I did, Film HQ that I did for Lionsgate, I was the lead guy in the show because that was part of their. They were only going to do the show if I agreed to be the lead in it. But the thing I enjoyed most about that show, and I was tremendously proud of that show. I loved our Film HQ show. Loved it. It's probably maybe the thing I'm most proud of, that like when I sat down and actually look at the content that we produced. But at any rate, the thing I enjoyed most about it was the producing of it. So yeah, and I've actually had a chance over the last year or two to have my hand in quietly behind the scenes producing a couple things that I've never talked about and I never will. But it's the part I kind of enjoy the most. So I think if I ever get back into doing things movie-wise, and I've had a few people talk to me, I think it's going to be mostly, maybe I'll do a little bit of writing. But what I really enjoy doing is producing. I think that's probably the part that I'll lean towards more. Anyway, thanks for the question, Chris. I appreciate that, man. Ben Rayner writes, my top 5. Number 1, Doom. Oh, talking about the TV shows. Number 1, Doom Patrol. I'm with you on that. Number 2, Legends of Tomorrow. I see you and Rob both have that on this. I'm not a big fan of Legends of Tomorrow, but that's the beautiful thing about these lists. Number 3, The Gifted. It just got canceled, but it just got canceled, so it counts. I really like The Gifted. You know what? I maybe should have put The Gifted in my number 5 spot. I might have still had Black Lightning there, but I really enjoyed The Gifted as well. Number 4, Flash. Number 5, Arrow. Number 5, Arrow. Higher highs than Supergirl. Well, you know my opinion on Supergirl, all that kind of stuff. But I'm glad you brought up Gifted, Ben. I was heartbroken to hear that they canceled Gifted. Now, I'll say this. I did think Season 1 was better than Season 2. But I still quite like Season 2 a lot. And I love Jamie as Blink in it. I like the characters. I like the story. And that's another show that I didn't think looked good at all. And then I ended up really, really enjoying it. Slim Trav writes, top 10 worst films. Oh, top 10 worst films. Number 10, Dark Phoenix. I don't think Dark Phoenix is that bad. I don't think it's good. But I think people give that movie a harder time than it deserves. But that's just me. Number 9, Transformers 5. Number 8, Pixels. Oh, I hate Pixels. Number 7, Van Wilder 2. Number 6, Zoolander 2. Number 5, Grown Ups 2. Number 4, Fantastic Four. Which one was that? The first one, the second one, or the rebooted one? Because I think the rebooted one they did with Miles Teller is like Dark Phoenix. A bad film, but not as bad as I think a lot of people make it out to be. I think, particularly, I think the first act of the most recent Fantastic Four movie actually isn't all that bad. The second 2 acts, not so much. Number 3, Holmes and Watson. Number 2, Transformers 2. Number 1, Norbit. And again, to me, of course, the granddaddy, the unholy trinity, as I call them, Slim, the unholy trinity of the worst wide release Hollywood produced movies in history are, in no particular order, The Highlander 2, Battlefield Earth, and Catwoman. To me, those are the 3 most inexcusable, horrible, wide release, big Hollywood films ever in the history of cinema. That's my unholy trinity. You got some pretty bad ones on yours as well, my friend. Well done. All right. The pop culture Crotcheter writes, oh, she gives me a little bit of a finesse. Okay, crocheter. Okay, is that what that is? Crocheter? All right, pop culture crocheter. I'm assuming you're into crochet. Okay, pop culture crocheter writes, with several neurological issues, focusing is incredibly hard for me sometimes. If I can sit through a film without checking my phone, pretty much anyone else should be able to as well. Thank you. As a matter of fact, now I'm going to say this, Pop. I'm going to say this. I have found in general, over the past year or two, that's been getting better. I personally find fewer people are pulling out their phones in movies today than they did a couple of years ago. Your experience may be different, but that's mine. But last night, it didn't help that I didn't like the movie anyway. So It Chapter 2. Ann and I are trying to watch It Chapter 2. And there's this guy in front of us who every 5 freaking minutes was pulling out his phone. Every 5 minutes. Now, he wasn't getting on the phone and talking on the phone, granted, but every 5 or 10 minutes, oh, did somebody like my Facebook post? Or did somebody give my tweet a like? Yeah, or whatever it is. Every 5 minutes, they're pulling out their phone, which is distracting. You're in a movie theater, it's dark, you're immersed in the film, and all of a sudden, this light comes on in front of you. It's like, and it's just, Like, look, every once in a while, I'll give you a great example. I went to go see the Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson movie. What was it called? High Rise? Or what was... hold on a second. Let me see. I can't remember the exact name of the movie. It's the recent one where the building was on fire. It was Skyscraper. That's what it was. I was in the movie theater watching Skyscraper. Now, it happened to be on the day we're in the time period when Schnepp was deteriorating and he was in hospital, and I think that was the day that some of us found out that he was brain dead. And which is not news that they let everybody else know till about a week and a half later. But I think it was the day, if I'm remembering it correctly, I was in the movie theater watching Skyscraper. And it was the day that those of us in certain circles found out that for all intents and purposes, Schnepp was gone. And I mean, there was nothing we could do, and I was in the theater, but I remember a lot of us were very much rapidly keeping in touch with each other. Particularly me, Robert Burnett, Christian Harloff. Like, we were all like just rapidly exchanging and trying to keep each other up to date, communicating with each other. And I had to sit through the screening. I mean, there was nothing else I could do at the time, so I was in the screening. But what I made sure to do, even though I'm sure my reason for needing to check my phone was way more important than that guy who sat in front of me at It last night looking at his Facebook and Twitter every 5 minutes. What I made sure to do was I purposefully found an empty seat that was a little bit closer to the door. Right? And I was in the AMC Burbank 16, so they even have, like, in the upper level, as you go up higher in the seats, there was either another little walkway, not a tunnel, but a little walkway off to the side that you could go through and get to another exit if you want to. I moved seats to make sure I sat as close to one of those as possible, so that when I had an incoming message, what I would do, and I only did this 2 or 3 times throughout the film so it wouldn't be a distraction, was instead of pulling out my phone in the theater, I would get out of my seat, because I was right in the aisle, get out of my seat and duck into that little hallway. And then I would pull my phone out, double check, see what Christian was writing to me, see what Rob was writing to me, see what else was writing to me, see what Dennis was writing, whatever. That's when I would pull out my phone. There's just no excuse. Unless your name starts with the word doctor or Mr. President, you don't have to check your phone every 5 minutes. You don't need to have your phone on you. Sometimes there are extreme situations, like the one I found myself in. But even then, you can still be courteous. And if you have to look at your phone because something important is going on, be courteous to everybody else. Step out of the theater. Just step into the walkway. Step into the walkway around the corner so you can pull out your phone without everybody else in the theater watching it. Because whatever your problems are, whatever my problems were in that moment, they weren't everybody else's problem. Just because I was going through something tough at that moment, and the people I knew were going through something tough, doesn't mean everybody else in that movie theater, it's their problem, and that they should just have to put up with me checking my phone. You know? So anyway, that's it. So I am completely with you, Crocheter. I'm completely with you on that. Absolutely. So thank you for sharing that. Anyway, S. Beam writes, let's see here. One of two. Movies I can't live without, top 10 list. The Dark Knight. Conan the Barbarian. Conan, what is best in life? What is it again? To crush your enemies, see them driven before you, and to hear the lamentation of their women. Conan the Barbarian. Apollodorus. Anyway, Captain America, Winter Soldier, Big Lebowski, American. I'm so glad you put American Werewolf in London on there. My all-time number one favorite horror film ever, American Werewolf in London. God bless it. Not to be confused with the terrible follow-up film, American Werewolf in Paris. Not to be confused with that film. But the original American Werewolf in London, still to this day, the only horror film I cannot watch as a grown-ass man at night with the lights turned off. Still can't do it. All right, Nosferatu writes, does Spider-Man being absent from the MCU break continuity? I personally don't think so. No, that's the thing. It really doesn't. Spider-Man had a very, very small footprint in the MCU, other than his connection to Tony Stark. But Tony Stark's now dead. That solves that problem. Now, the other character they had a major connection to is Happy Hogan. But Happy Hogan isn't one of the primary characters in the MCU. And you can easily get past that. Just say, oh, I'm getting over a breakup. That's all you have. You don't even have to say Aunt May. You don't have to say anything. You can just have them at some point saying, hey, I've been dealing with a breakup and blah, blah. And that's it. That's it. No impact on the continuity whatsoever. Nobody else in the MCU really even knew him. Doctor Strange hung out with him for a couple of hours. Everybody else only had a couple of minutes of exposure to him. He had a very, very small footprint in the MCU. I agree with you, Nosferatu. MCU can easily move forward without any continuity breaks. I think they'll be just fine. I really do. Vivek writes, my top 7. 7, The Truman Show. That's one that doesn't get mentioned often. Number 6, Winter Soldier. Number 5, A Few Good Men. You can't handle the truth. Number 4, Pursuit of Happiness. I've not seen that one listed before. That's a good little movie. Number 3, Lord of the Rings trilogy. Number 2, Cinderella Man. I'm so glad you mentioned Cinderella Man. One of the most underrated films of all time. Somebody else mentioned it on their list the other day. Russell Crowe. Fabulous movie. And number 1, The Dark Knight. A lot of people have some big Dark Knight love. Vivek, thanks for sharing your list, dude. All right. Let's see. Jillowatts. 1.21 Jillowatts. Oh, by the way, really big super chat. Thank you, Jillowatts, for supporting the channel on that level, man. Seriously, we all of us here really appreciate it very much. All right. Top 10 in no particular order. Number 1, Star Wars, the original trilogy. Obviously. Number 2, Monty Python, Quest for the Holy Grail. Number 3, Little Shop of Horrors, Seymour. Number 4, Repo, the Genetic Opera by Darren Lynn Bousman. Or Boozman. Darren Lynn Boozman? I think that's how you pronounce his last name. I'll say Boozman for now. I'm shocked. I have never seen anybody list Repo, the Genetic Opera, on their top 10 list. We all got to have a unique one. Mine is, of course, the original Highlander. Yours, apparently, is Darren Lynn Boozman's Repo, the Genetic Opera. I never would have thought I'd seen that on a list. You got points there for originality, Jillowatts. All right, number 5, The Sandlot. You're killing me, Smalls. Number 6, Clue. Number 7, Murder by Death. Number 8, Emperor's New Groove. Number 9, Lilo and Stitch, really. And number 10, The Usual Suspects. Usual Suspects is on my top 10 list as well. You know what's funny? Despite the fact that I'm almost convinced that the Disney creators designed Lilo after Anne, even though it was a long time ago, Anne has never seen Lilo and Stitch. We were just at Disneyland recently, and we saw this Lilo doll. I'm like, oh my God, this looks like you as a kid. And she goes, I know, right? It's weird that I've never seen it. I'm like, wait a minute, time out. What? You've never seen Lilo and Stitch? So she and I got to sit down and watch Lilo and Stitch. She and I got to sit down and watch us some Lilo and Stitch. And as far as The Usual Suspects go, man, that movie it's not Shawshank Redemption. But I honestly do not feel it's hyperbole to say it's one of the best made movies ever done. It's one of the best movies ever made. And that's why it's also in my top 10 list, Jillowatts. Because to me, it's just one of the best ever done. And it's not even just because of the ending, the Kaiser Soze thing. It's not even the ending. It's the whole way that narrative is told and the whole way the story unfolds. And look, you've got now today in hindsight, you got a number of points of controversy around it because of the Kevin Spacey things, because of the Bryan Singer thing. I mean, all that kind of stuff. But all that stuff aside, just as a movie, that movie is still to me one of the greatest films ever made. It's just, I think it's brilliant, brilliantly performed, brilliantly directed, brilliant writing. It's an amazing film with one of the best endings in cinematic history. One of the best endings in cinematic history. But that's just me. Not everybody agrees, and that's the beautiful thing about film. So thank you for the list, Jill Watts. I appreciate it, man. Solid list with some big surprises in there. Again, Repo, really interesting. All right. S. Beam writes, number 2. Wait a second, S. Beam. Where was your 1 of 2? Oh, movies you can't live without, and the American Wolfland. Then you had a part 2 follow up. The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, great. Labyrinth, Leon the Professional, Braveheart. But movies may be easily shifted and added. That's what makes them fun. Absolutely. Absolutely. See, one of the reasons I don't like giving top 5 or top 10s, even though we just did it with our television show ones, our superhero television show ones, one of the reasons I usually lean away from them is because, number one, there's a bunch of jackalopes out there that when you go, you put that at number 3? Clearly that one should be at number 2. You have lost all credibility. And, you just get jackalopes out there who don't understand the nature of doing these lists. But aside from the annoying jackalopes, the other thing is that it really is shifting sand, right? I've had a number of times where I say, yeah, blah, blah, blah. That movie's like my number 4 favorite of that. Then somebody say, John, back in 2015, you said this other movie was your number 4 in that category. I don't think you're very consistent. It's like, yeah, the thing is, a lot of times on this show, I'll say, what's my favorite thing of this? And I'll say, you know what? It depends on the day you ask me. Somebody will write, say, hey, John, who do you prefer? This guy in this role or this guy in this role? And I say, you know what? Sometimes I say, it depends on the day you ask me, because I love both of them or I dislike both of them, whatever. And you know what? Today I'll say this, but if you ask me again in a couple of weeks, I might give you a different answer, because that's the thing about art and the way it hits us and what it means to us is that it'll shift, right? It'll shift. And so what I learned is that there's a lot of people out there who don't get that. And so by putting out a top 10 list, now people want to hold you to that top 10 forever and say that, then that's what it is. You can never change from that. It's like, but then you don't get what movies are if you're going to be that kind of strict on it. And that's what, because you're absolutely right. They're shifted, they move, they evolve, they grow, they change. And the way we'll order things like that sometimes will often reflect that shifting sand. And I'm glad you acknowledge that, S-Beam, because I agree with you 100%. Anyway, Fun Overlord X writes, hey, John, huge fan of the theater-only trailers, like Birds of Prey. It makes the visit that much more worthwhile, probably mean while. Will it be a new thing? Fingers crossed. I respect that, Fun. I respect that. But since you're asking me, I got to be honest with you, I completely disagree. They played that little Birds of Prey trailer, which isn't even a trailer. It's like 30 seconds. And it's just a stupid little gimmick thing where, hey, it's playing in front of it. Let's have a couple of balloons float by, and then have Harley Quinn saying, I've had it with clowns. Wah, wah. It came across as dumb and just cheesy and pathetic. And it's not even a trailer. So like we were debating yesterday on the show, it's like they're saying they're putting out a new trailer and it's only going to be in theaters. They're not going to release a trailer online. It's like, I'm thinking, why would you do a trailer for a movie that needs all the help it can get right now, by the way, and not put the trailer in theater? Well, it's not even really a trailer. It's not even a real trailer. It's just this little little gag that they connected to. And by the way, it's a gag they already did with the Addams Family trailers. She comes in, I found this, and she's holding a red balloon, and the mother goes, there's usually a murderous clown attached to the other end of these. Like, we get it. We already got the red balloon. It's an it thing. It's been done. So, I mean, I don't know. Like, full trailers, no. You shouldn't just keep those in the movies because it's a commercial. It's an advertisement. But a little stupid gag thing like what they did last night, I'll be honest with you, I have less of a problem today with what they did with the Birds of Prey thing and only being in theaters. Now that I've seen it and I realize it's not even a trailer. It's just it's a gag. It's a gag that's directly connected to it, and outside of the context of it has really no meaning. So I'm fine with that. But I don't think it speaks much to trailers overall. So I respect that you love the idea of Fun Overlord. I respect that. But I got to tell you, my film fan loving brother, that I'm on the opposite pole on that. I don't like the idea of it in principle. But the way they did it with Birds of Prey, I get it because it's not even a trailer. It was just a stupid little gag they did. Anyway. T2 Productions LLC writes, top 4 favorite movies. 4, Tombstone, great. 3, Rounders, Johnny Chan. Number 4, Bull Durham. And number 1, The Crow. Really? A lot of people love The Crow, man. A lot of people love The Crow. A movie that they have been trying to remake for years with about 18 different stars and 4 different sets of directors, and it is as cursed as The Crow himself. Keeps falling apart, man. It keeps falling apart, but maybe one of these days it'll come. Thanks for sharing your list, T2. All right, Chris Warden writes, saw a time in Hollywood, probably mean Once Upon a Time in Hollywood again, the day, you probably meant the other day, and like it even more now. Anytime Leo or Pitt were on screen, it was magic. Don't cry in front of the Mexicans. It was good. I saw it twice in theaters, and I felt the same way about it twice. I'm still not thrilled with Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. I like it. I like Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. In a thumbs up or thumbs down world, it gets a thumbs up from me. I like it. But it's on the lower half for me of Tarantino's films. But that doesn't take away that I agree with you, Chris. The performances by Leo and Pitt were remarkable. They were absolutely fabulous performances. Tremendous ending. Some really, really good scenes. There was a lot in this movie that didn't need to be in it, though. Like the entire Sharon Tate, there was no rhyme or reason for Sharon Tate's character being there at all. They wasted like a good 20, 30 minutes of screen time on Sharon Tate. She had no bearing on the film whatsoever, except as a little bit of a misdirect. The masturbatory 18-minute look at us driving around the streets of Hollywood shots that were completely unnecessary. I mean, I just had a number of problems with it even after seeing it for the second time. But I think the positives outweigh the negatives. And so I like the film. I enjoyed it, and I think I won't be surprised at all if Leo or Brad get nominations come Oscar time. I will not be surprised because they were that good in it. I really, really enjoyed their performances. All right. Luis David writes, which do you prefer, the battle against the AT-ATs in Empire Strikes Back or the battle against the Oliphants in Return of the King? The battle against the Oliphants. Now, I prefer Empire Strikes Back over Lord of the Rings, but as that one particular battle, I actually preferred the battle against the Oliphants, I think. But I don't know, man. There's so much drama. Like, if you're just talking about the specific fight against the AT-ATs or that entire opening sequence in Empire when the Imperials are coming and attacking the Hoth base, there's a lot of drama in that too, but the Oliphants were good. Okay, I'll tell you what. For now, I will lean towards the Oliphants. I may answer differently if you ask me again next year, but right now I'm going to lean towards the Oliphants. All right. Enigma Sword writes, favorite films in no order. Iron Giant. Iron Giant. Scott Pilgrim. That's the second time Scott Pilgrim. I never would have thought people would have that on their favorites list, but that's come up a couple times today. I like that. The Raid 2, Under the Skin. That's a nice one. Chronicle. I love Chronicle. Akira, A Silent Voice, It Follows. I was not a fan of It Follows. I was a little bit late to the It Follows party. And some of you know Dorina. And I went over to Dorina's house and we were hanging out one night and we popped on It Follows. And both of us hadn't seen it yet. We were both late to the It Follows party. And we watched and we're like, that wasn't actually very good. But hey, man, you're not alone. I mean, a lot of people love that film. Anyway, Birdman, fantastic. Whiplash, fantastic. Princess Mononoke, fantastic. Wolf Children, nice list, man. I'll take a little bit of issue with It Follows. But I got one or two on my list, people that people would take issue with as well. So that's totally fair. But solid list, man. Iron Giant, Scott Pilgrim, Raid 2. Nice. Nicely done. All right, Synced Uprights. Rob Do, Hot Toys Mysterio just dropped. He was talking about that a little bit earlier. Very bummed out to hear that they do not have the Jake Gyllenhaal face. I'll be honest with you, I lose any interest of having that if I don't have the Jake Gyllenhaal face. I really do, and I'm in agreement with Rob on that one. Emalia1981 writes, I read this on IndieWire. Should we be worried? Disney is refusing to let some theaters license preparatory bookings of classic Fox films. I'm not surprised to hear that, mainly because, and if you think about it, now I don't know, this is just me speculating here, but I'm not surprised to hear that, and it makes sense, and here's why. The whole reason you have Disney Plus is to have this repository of all this great content where you should sign up for Disney Plus because this is the only place you can watch these movies. And if you let theaters keep popping them up in theaters, then philosophically, at any rate, in principle, you are undermining your own position, saying, well, you can actually watch these great classic movies elsewhere. When really what they want to be doing is saying, and the whole reason you make Disney Plus is, this is the place to come to watch these movies, is on Disney Plus. Sign up today. So I gotta say, it doesn't worry me because I know I'll always have a place to go and watch these classic Fox films, whether they be on Disney Plus or on Hulu. And it would, in theory, make sense to me. Now, look, there could be many, many pieces of this puzzle I'm not seeing right now, which is because, again, like I said, I'm just speculating here. But on its surface, it seems to make sense to me. So, I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. Interesting topic, though. Interesting notion. All right, Gabriel Reed writes, get a deck of cards and wait for it. Deal with it. I don't know if that's from a movie. If that's from a movie, I don't know the reference. That's fun. Get a deck of cards and deal with it. I'm probably going to have to use that sometime. If it's from a movie, I don't know what it's from, but I like that line a lot. Ryan W. writes, going through a rough time. I'm sorry to hear that, Ryan. I'm having to put, dude, my dog. You know what's funny? I just heard Anne's sister has a dog named Daphne that has been around since I've known Anne, since before me and Anne were together. So Anne's known this dog and been very close to this dog for a long time. And just found out today that that Daphne got put down. We just found that out today. So it's funny in an odd way that you're having. That's terrible, man. That's a terrible, terrible experience. I'm having to put my dog down. I'm going to go see Ready or Not and watch the show and watch this show to help distract me. Thanks for creating such a great community. Well, seriously, Ryan, it is a sucky situation. I'm a dog guy. I'm a dog guy, and dogs really are parts of the family. And it's really, really sad when one has to be. And again, our family's going through that right now too. The dog's been with us since before I was a part of the family. We had to put down too. And you know what? That's one of the great things about movies. They give our minds a little bit of a break from the crap we're dealing with and all that kind of stuff. And I'm glad that the movies can be here for you. And I'm glad our little part of the film fan community can be here as a part of that as well, Ryan. Thanks for sharing your story, dude. Hold it together. Good thoughts to you, my friend. And it is a tough thing when you got to go through it. So sorry to hear that, man. My condolences, seriously, as a fellow dog guy. All right. Jason Espinoza writes, July 2021 Spider-Man Broken Home. So other people would be were writing in next Spider-Man homeless. And yep, and you know what? Wouldn't it be funny if Sony actually did that? That'd be pretty ballsy. If they came and called the next one Broken Home. That would be pretty ballsy. They're not going to do it, but I would respect them a lot if they did. I think that would be funny. All right. Augie Stark writes, I may not always spend money on Super Chat, but when I do, it's on the John Campea Show. Stay filthy, my friends. Thank you for supporting the show, Augie. Thank you for being here and being a part of the community, and thanks for the well wishes. I appreciate that, man. Thank you, dude. Gabriel Reed writes, John, my first time using an elevator was, wait for it, an uplifting. What's gotten into you today, Gabriel? Just somebody's got the dad jokes going today. But I did like that card one. That one was good. The deal with it one, I dug that. Holy crap, it's 11:30. Been going for 2.5 hours already. Okay, let's just get through a couple more here, guys. McDavid Deserves Better writes, I'm elated to see via Twitter that you're enjoying Letterkenny. I am loving Letterkenny. Anyway, which character is your favorite thus far? Jonesy and Riley are scene stealers. I'm freezing on the name of the main guy. Just the main guy. You know, a couple hockey players came to the produce stand. Just him, the tough guy. It's the dialogue. It's like Quentin Tarantino-like dialogue in a Kevin Smith-like scenario. It's crazy. I am loving it. I love the fact that you guys turned me on to this. McDavid follows up with, in my opinion, absentee Spidey severely breaks continuity. He's been positioned as the heir apparent of the franchise. Not really. Unceremoniously axing him would be jarring. Again, I disagree. He has had, here's the thing, McDavid, he's had no footprint. Outside of his exposure to Tony Stark, he has had no footprint in the MCU. Extremely minimal footprint, right? Nobody talked about Spider-Man until Tony Stark got back. Like in Endgame, I lost the kid. Nobody ever talked about him. Like, nobody talked about him because nobody knew him, right? He's a high school kid. He wasn't the heir apparent. He was a protege, but he's a high school child. He's a high school child who none of the other MCU had any real exposure to him. It's not like he was Black Panther, where everybody had to go and battle in Wakanda, and even Captain America went and relied on him, and, you know, had big exposure to everybody in Civil War and was intricately connected. In Civil War, like, Spider-Man just showed up for 5 minutes for a fight and then left. Hey, everybody, I'm Spider-Man. And then 5 minutes, he's gone. Tony Stark puts him on a plane, he's gone. That's all the exposure they had to him. He made no footprint in the MCU. And now that we know this deal is ending, you can see that the MCU probably did that on purpose because they realize there's a possibility this deal won't go beyond this, so we can't have him too intricately connected to any of the other characters other than Tony Stark, who is dying anyway. And that character's going to be killed off anyway. So it's no big deal. So I'm sorry, but like, let's say in the upcoming Thor movie, do you think Spider-Man would have, let's say Spidey was still in the MCU, all right? Let's say Spidey was still in the MCU and none of this had happened. Do you think there's any chance that Spider-Man was going to be mentioned in the upcoming Thor movie? Nah, he wasn't going to be mentioned. There's no way. Wasn't mentioned in Thor Ragnarok. Do you think, even if they hadn't Spider-Man wasn't taken out of the MCU, do you think there's any chance that Spider-Man would be even mentioned in WandaVision? No. You think there's any chance Spider-Man was going to be mentioned in the Black Widow movie? No. You think there's any chance Spider-Man was going to be mentioned in Black Panther 2? No. You think there's any possibility he was going to be mentioned in the next Doctor Strange movie? Doctor Strange spent a grand total of like a couple of hours with Spider-Man once. That's it. He wasn't going to be mentioned. Even if Spider-Man was still in the MCU today, Spider-Man wasn't going to be mentioned in Doctor Strange 2. Now, would Tony Stark be mentioned in those ones? Hell yeah, he was. He was even mentioned in Ragnarok. Cap is mentioned all over the place. There are characters who are mentioned because they have bigger footprints in the MCU than a Spider-Man did, who had no footprint. So, like, realistically, as we sit here and go through all these shows and movies, would Spider-Man be mentioned in this? No. Would Spider-Man mention this? No. Would Spider-Man be mentioned that? No. The more you say no, the more you're acknowledging him being pulled out does not disrupt their continuity, and it's not going to be jarring because he wasn't going to be there anyway. Nobody talked about him and nobody knew him other than Tony and Happy. And Happy's not a primary character. So I got to disagree with you, McDavid. I got to disagree with you. There is simply no footprint that Spider-Man has made in the MCU that his sudden absence is going to even be noticed. It'll be noticed by us, the fans, because we're used to Spider-Man over the last few years being in the MCU, but not really. I mean, so that's something we got to keep in mind, I think. Okay, anyway. Thanks for your observation, dude. Gabriel Reed writes, I'm the most wanted man on my island. Oh, this is from Braveheart. I'm the most wanted man on my island. Except I'm not on my island, of course. More's the pity. Your island? You mean Ireland? Yeah. It's mine. I love that character. I love that character. And that dude, I don't know the actor's name who plays him, but he's popped up in a lot of other stuff. He even had a couple of episodes he was in Gotham. Oh no, that was the other guy from, that was the dude with the scar, who was also in Sons of Anarchy, who was in Gladiator, not Braveheart. But anyway, I'm putting all these pieces together. I love that character in Braveheart, and obviously love that movie. It's a fabulous, fabulous character. It's my island. I love that. It's great. Devontae Brown writes, do you know what this controversy is with the Jeremy Renner app I've been hearing? People have been crapping on him and Scarlett Johansson all week. The only thing I know about it was Jeremy Renner started a Jeremy Renner app. And the idea was it's a place for people to talk about Jeremy Renner's, movies and his music and stuff like that. It's supposed to be a fun place. From what I understand, though, a bunch of people were able to pose as Jeremy Renner and say a bunch of stupid crap and stuff and made it just a hell's place to be. And so Jeremy Renner, from what I understand, just closed it down. Now, look, I might be missing a few big pieces of the story because I'm not really well acquainted with the story, to be honest with you. But that's the amount of that I've read of it. So that's the full extent. I honestly don't pay a lot of attention to this, to the TMZ kind of stuff that goes on most of the time. But from what I understood, he had this app. It was meant just to be a fun community place. Some trolls came in and made it a cesspool, and he shut it down. So, but maybe there's more to the story that I'm not familiar with. I haven't been staying up to date on it, but that's the extent that I know, Devontae. If you know more, feel free to shed some light on it, because I don't know any more than that, to be honest. All right. Christopher Cho writes, your thoughts about the direction of the Disney company when Iger retires in 2021. He's not Walt Disney, but he has brought the company to the most success it has ever seen within the last decade. Yeah, you cannot overstate what Bob Iger has done and accomplished in his time of being the head of Disney. Not just the CEO. He's also the chairman of the board. He answers to nobody. He answers to nobody. He is the man in charge of Disney. And the success and the heights he has guided this company to is crazy. My feeling is he has probably been grooming a successor and grooming the board that they will probably just carry right on with his vision as soon as he's gone. So I'll be honest with you, Christopher, him leaving is going to be an interesting time, but I honestly think he is a strong enough leader that he's going to have every little piece in place to make sure Disney carries on in that direction and will carry on successfully and well. And who knows, maybe the next leader they put in place will be even better than him. Maybe it won't be quite as good as him. Who knows? But I think for the immediate first 3, 4, 5 years, I don't think we're going to see much of a difference, because I think they're going to already have the game plan laid out. I think he's going to lay out the game plan. He's going to lay out the roadmap, groom his successor, and then they'll go forward. And for the first number of years, it's going to feel like he's still there. I think it'll feel like Bob Iger is still there for the first few years. And then we'll see where the changes come. But I think initially it's going to go on and be the same. I really do. Good observation, though, Christopher. All right. Jordan Sperlin writes, hey, John, I think Bill Skarsgård is the best Pennywise. Who do you think, Tim Curry or Bill Skarsgård? Thanks and have a good one. Well, I mean, it really is an apples and oranges situation. Because a lot of Pennywise is visual effects. Now, yes, he does do his voice. And look, don't get me wrong. I am not crapping on Skarsgård's Pennywise at all. I like him as Pennywise very much. Let's be very clear about that. But this It incarnation is very different from that miniseries incarnation of It. And also remember that Curry was doing it all without the addition, support, or whatever of any visual effects. All he had was himself in the clown outfit with some practical visual effects as well, right? But there's a lot of effects work that comes into the play with the performance of that. So I'm not trying to cop out on the answer, but the reality is that they're two such different things. What Curry had to, could Bill Skarsgård have done a great Pennyworth if he had done it back in the 80s? Without any digital effects and the type of miniseries that was, would he have been as good as Tim Curry was in the role at the time? I don't know. Could Tim Curry have done as good of a job as Bill Skarsgård if he had been brought forward to today and been doing Pennywise today in this type of an It incarnate? I don't know. But they really are. They're completely different eras and really different types of Pennywises they both had to do. And they both had different tools at their disposal to do it. So it's really, really tough for me to say which one I think did it better, because they portrayed two different Pennyworths. Or Pennywises. I'm thinking of Alfred. They're really portraying two different versions of Pennywise. So I don't know that I can say I pick one over the other, to be honest with you. Anyway, it's an interesting thought, though. All right. Last two questions today, guys, and then we're going to wrap it up here. This one comes to us from Ben Rayner, who writes, Canyon just watch It Chapter 1. Canyon just... Are you trying to say, guys, please proofread? Please proofread what it is before you hit send. I'm going to guess, Ben, you're trying to say, can you? I'm guessing you're saying, can you? Okay. Can you just watch It Chapter 1 as a self-contained movie? Do you have to watch Chapter 2 to have a feeling completion? No. Absolutely, you don't have to watch Chapter 2. I think if you had no idea about the novel of It and the old miniseries, and you just watched It Chapter 1, if you just, it wasn't called It Chapter 1, it's just called It, and you just watched It, I think it's perfectly serves as a totally self-contained movie. It really does. So no, I'll be honest with you, I kind of wish I didn't watch It Chapter 2. I didn't like it. I kind of wish I just stuck with It Chapter 1. But no, I think you absolutely can watch It Chapter 1 and be done with it. If you haven't seen It Chapter 1, I think you can just watch it and not worry about 2. Now, you may watch It Chapter 1 and like it so much, like I did, that you'll go, but now I really want to watch It Chapter 2, and which, fine, go ahead and do that. There's nothing wrong with that either. Again, I don't think It Chapter 2 is a terrible movie. I don't think it's terrible. I just don't think it's particularly good. But it's not terrible. But if you wanted to, in your head, just watch number 1 and that's all you wanted to watch, it's a perfectly well done, self-contained movie. That has an open door to do a sequel, but you won't feel like you're missing something, I don't believe, if you don't watch Chapter 2. But that others may disagree, but that's my kind of thought on that. All right. Last one today comes to us from Zach Taylor, who writes, they had a TV spot during the football game of the Joker, and when he licks the paintbrush, my dad laughed and said, "What kind of movie is this?" Hey, yeah, look, if you're, look, we can say that about a lot of different types of movies, though, can't we, Zach? Like, if some little TV spots, which are much shorter than regular trailers, and you're not familiar with anything about that movie, there could be things in TV spots that make you go, wait, what is that? If that's all you've ever seen. But listen, seriously, even as a whole, because they also played a Joker trailer last night in front of It Chapter 2. When you look at that trailer, it looks unlike anything. It looks unlike anything that you would expect from a quote-unquote comic book movie. Which is part of the thing that makes it so exciting. That's part of the thing that makes this Joker movie look so damn exciting, is it looks so different from anything we've gotten from the comic book genre so far. And as a result, yeah, I could see if there was a short little TV spot, it might make some people go, what the hell is that? I could see that. I could totally see that happening. You know what? I said that was the last one. Let's just do one more. Jay Meister 25 writes, in my opinion, Daredevil is not just the best comic book show ever, but it is also my number 5 show of all time. My number 1 being Boy Meets World. Never did watch Boy Meets World. Hey, Daredevil was great. No mistake about it. I love Daredevil. I loved all 3 seasons. I think the 3rd season might have even been my favorite season. I don't know that I call it my favorite comic book show of all time, but it's certainly in the discussion. It's certainly in the discussion. It was great. And you know what? We got 3 great seasons of it. It's a shame that it's done, but maybe it's for the best that it's done. I mean, they wrapped up the Kingpin storyline. It was a great 3 seasons. It was awesome, and I celebrate that we got it instead of lamenting that it's gone. But it's definitely one of the great ones, man. It's definitely one of the greatest of all time. All right, listen. For everybody else who still had questions outstanding here, from Leon to Tracy E to Cinema Survey and all the way down, do not worry. either today or sometime this weekend, we're going to do a companion video and we're going to get to all of your questions that we still have not yet answered. You sent them in. I'm going to make sure they get answered properly in a video. We've been going for 2 hours and 45 minutes today, so it's time for us to wrap up the show now. But don't worry, your question is getting answered either today or sometime this weekend. We'll put up a new companion video and get to all those questions. Guys, thank you so much for being here and being part of the show today. A special thanks to Robert Meyer Burnett, who was here earlier. Don't forget, he'll be back again on Monday. Thank you to all you guys who sent in these questions, not just because you gave us great fun things to talk about, but also because you supported the channel while you were doing that. And all of us here, thank you deeply for that as well. Guys, have a tremendous weekend. I hope you have a great weekend of great triumph and victory ahead of yourselves. Don't forget, we're going to have open mic tomorrow. It'll probably be at a different time because the UFC is tomorrow and it's at a weird time. So keep your eyes open for what time we're going to be doing that at. But there will be a companion video tomorrow and on Sunday as well. Keep your eyes open for that. And then, of course, the John Campea Show returns on Monday, and we've got a companion video coming as well for all you guys who we haven't gotten to your questions yet. Guys, it is, again, one of the great privileges of my life that I get to be here and you guys come and join me every day as we talk about movies. So guys, thanks so much for that. Hell, it's pretty awesome. And you make this fucking nobody from Canada feel pretty good every day. Thanks for being fans along with me, giving me somebody to talk about movies with. So thank you so much for that, guys. Have a great weekend. That'll do it for me for now, guys. My name's John Campea, and until next time, Bob Iger.